Welcome to the Fantasy Audiobook. Sign into Mr. Yi, My Power is Invincible. Chapter 21. Qingyan Dynasty, Qianyuan State. Fengqi Mountain. An ancient mountain with a long history in the Qingyan Dynasty. It is said that in ancient times, the mythical beast Phoenix once inhabited here when it passed through the northern wasteland, and Fengqi Mountain got its name from this. Fengqi Mountain and sea is extremely high, like a giant pillar connecting heaven and earth. The top of Fengqi Mountain. Yi Lingtian stood quietly with his hands behind his back. Behind him, there are three Taoist figures, who are Wei Xian, Yu Wushuang, and Tuo Bazan. Ever since he learned that Qianyuan Prefecture had the inheritance of martial sovereign, Yi Lingtian checked the detailed map of Qianyuan Prefecture and deduced several places where the inheritance of martial sovereign might appear. This Fengqi Mountain is one of them. For Yi Lingtian, the martial sovereign inheritance is dispensable. But since he appeared in Qingyan Dynasty, Yi Lingtian naturally would not give it up to others. Your Majesty, although Kaifeng Mountain is extremely ancient and has ancient myths spread, this place has a panoramic view. It doesn't look like it has the martial sovereign heritage, right? Wei Xian looked at the bare top of Fengqi Mountain, which looked like it had been roasted by fire, with a look of astonishment on his face. You were wrong. Yi Lingtian smiled and said, often the places that most people think are impossible are the most possible places. The words have not yet fallen. Yi Lingtian raised his hand and waved, and there was a sound like a mirror breaking from the top of Fengqi Mountain. Next moment, on the top of Fengqi Mountain, which was originally bare, a huge cave with a size of 100 feet appeared. Wei Xian was stunned. Your Majesty, this is. If my guess is correct, this should be the cave mansion where Emperor Yuan once practiced. After Yi Lingtian finished speaking, he looked directly at Wei Xian. Go in, the inheritance in this cave mansion belongs to you. Your Majesty, what did you say? Wei Xian looked in disbelief, and even wondered if he had heard wrongly. This is the martial sovereign heritage. Martial Tao is the existence that all the strong men in the northern wasteland dream of. I have broken through the martial sovereign realm, so naturally I despise this martial sovereign inheritance. Yi Lingtian curled his lips, then looked at Yu Wushuang. Wushuang, do you want this martial sovereign inheritance? Don't want. Yu Wushuang looked uninterested. With Master's Hongmeng Pagoda, she has plenty of time to create the exercises that are most suitable for her own practice and follow her own path. Why should she rely on other people's martial Tao inheritance? Yi Lingtian looked at Tuo Bazan again. What do you want? Your Majesty, I don't need it either. Tuo Bazan quickly shook his head. If he had followed Yi Lingtian before, Tuo Bazan might have been a little interested. The Confucianism and Taoism inheritance that Yi Lingtian gave him completely opened up a new world of cultivation for Tuo Bazan, making Tuo Bazan immersed in it and unable to extricate himself. And Tuo Bazan also felt that he was very suitable to practice the Confucianism and Taoism inheritance that Yi Lingtian gave him. Not to mention martial sovereign heritage. Even if the martial emperor inheritance was placed in front of him, he wouldn't be even remotely interested now. Yi Lingtian spread his hands and looked at Wei Xian again. Look, they all look down on the martial sovereign inheritance. You can only inherit it. ... Everyone in Wei Xian is numb. The inheritance of martial sovereign is something that all the powerful martial Tao people in the northern wilderness region flock to. But in front of Yi Lingtian and the others, they seemed like trash that no one wanted. Is it so outrageous? Wei Xian smiled bitterly and said, Your Majesty, with my martial Tao talent, even if I want to inherit the martial sovereign inheritance, I may not have the qualifications. This is easy. When Yi Lingtian spoke, he pointed his sword light and fired directly into the cave. Immediately, a bright light burst out from the depths of the cave, turning into an illusory purple-robed middle-aged man in front of Yi Lingtian and the others. You should be the famous Emperor Yuan of the northern wasteland, right? Yi Lingtian looked at the middle-aged man in purple robe, pointed at Wei Xian beside him, and said calmly, You should have no objection to my subordinate inheriting the legacy you left, right? No, he has too little talent. The middle-aged man in purple robe glanced at Wei Xian and frowned slightly. This emperor's inheritance. Only. The middle-aged man in purple robe was only halfway through his words when a sword light suddenly fell from the top of his head, instantly shattering his illusory figure into nothingness. Dignified martial sovereign, can't you distinguish between questions and rhetorical questions? Yi Lingtian glanced at the place where the purple-robed middle-aged man disappeared, smiled at Wei Xian and said, "Go ahead, he has no objection." Quote. Wei Xian was speechless. You have killed them with one sword, what else can they say? My master is really not an ordinary violent person. They often get into trouble at the slightest disagreement. If you can do it, never speak. But, he likes such a master. Thank you, Your Majesty. Wei Xian didn't show any pretense and disappeared into the cave in a flash. And at the moment Wei Xian entered the cave, there was a sudden violent fluctuation in the sky east of Fengqi Mountain. I saw a black shadow, carrying the powerful aura of Martial King, rolling towards Fengqi Mountain. Just for a moment, the black shadow suddenly landed in front of Yi Lingtian and the others. King of Heaven and Sea. Yi Lingtian looked at the visitor and raised his eyebrows slightly. I didn't expect that the first one to arrive would be you. The person who came was none other than Hai Qinghu, the king of the Tian'ai dynasty. Tian'ai dynasty is located to the northeast of Qingyan dynasty, forming a triangle with Qingyan dynasty and Hanfang dynasty. The war between Qingyan dynasty and Hanfang dynasty broke out, and they asked Tian'ai dynasty for help. Only, Hai Qinghu, the king of the sky and sea, is a master who doesn't let go of eagles when he sees rabbits, and he also likes the secretly sinister Lao Lu. Unexpectedly, this time for the inheritance of martial sovereign, this old Yinbi would be the first to jump out. King Qingyan, give me a share of the martial sovereign inheritance. The Tian'ai dynasty will become a subsidiary dynasty of the Qingyan dynasty. From now on, only the Qingyan dynasty will follow suit. How about that? Hai Qinghu's eyes were fixed on the cave behind Yi Lingtian, and his eyes shot out with extremely hot light. Martial sovereign inheritance. Hai Qinghu's inner desire is extremely longing, more longing than anyone else's. Although he only has the cultivation level of an intermediate martial king, he is a figure of the same era as Tuo Bahong, the ancestor of Hanfang dynasty. In Xuanwang Great World, the lifespan of the top-level martial king is only 500 years. Hai Qinghu, a mid-level martial king who is over 300 years old, is almost at the end of his life. He desperately wants to break through the realm and extend his life. It's a pity that my talent is limited and it has been difficult to break through. The martial sovereign inheritance in front of him undoubtedly gave Hai Qinghu a glimmer of hope. Only, after Yi Qingyan disappeared, Yi Lingtian appeared, and he was even more terrifying than Yi Qingyan. The battle at Qijiangguan. Not only was Tuo Bahan killed by Yi Lingtian, but even the high-level martial king of Thunder Dynasty, Mysterious Light, fell into Yi Lingtian's hands. Hai Qinghu naturally didn't dare to be hard. He decided to join Yi Lingtian first and get the martial sovereign inheritance first. Quote. Hai Qinghu led the Tian'ai dynasty to surrender as soon as he came up, and he was directly defeated by Yi Lingtian. Hai Qinghu, are you serious? Yi Lingtian looked at Hai Qinghu with a strange expression. Although he showed great strength by killing the martial king continuously during this period, he also established powerful enemies such as the Thunder Dynasty and the Tianqian Dynasty. With Hai Qinghu's sixth attribute, how could he surrender so easily? Certainly, Hai Qinghu said with sincerity. I, Hai Qinghu, can swear to God that the Tian'ai dynasty is willing to surrender to the Qingyan dynasty. From now on, the Qingyan dynasty will be respected, and only the Qingyan dynasty will obey. Tian'ai dynasty is willing to do so, what does it have to do with Hai Qinghu? The current situation of the Qingyan dynasty is very bad. With the emergence of the martial sovereign inheritance, and the fact that Yi Lingtian has offended top dynasties such as the Jinglei dynasty, I am afraid that if they are not careful, they will encounter disaster. Hai Qinghu never thought about following Yi Lingtian to commit suicide. His purpose is nothing more than the inheritance of martial sovereign. As long as the martial sovereign inheritance was deceived from Yi Lingtian, Hai Qinghu planned to run away immediately. With the martial sovereign heritage, there is hope for him to break through and gain new life, and even hit a higher level of martial sovereign realm. By the time, as long as he is willing, he can create a more powerful Tian'ai dynasty at any time. So, exchange Tian'ai dynasty for martial sovereign inheritance, this transaction is a sure profit. Ding! Congratulations to the master for conquering the Tian'ai dynasty. The martial king level of the dynasty has been increased by 1, and 1,000 immortal dynasty points have been obtained. At this moment, Loli Tongzi's voice sounded in Yi Lingtian's mind. Yi Lingtian was slightly startled, and immediately turned on the properties of Immortal Dynasty Mode. Immortal Dynasty Mode, Qinghuang Dynasty. Monarch, Yi Lingtian. Dynasty Strength. First in the Martial Sovereign Realm, third in the Martial King Realm. Immortal Dynasty Points, 11,000. Redeemable Items. Random Excellent Level Fragment Card, 200 Immortal Dynasty Points. Universal Excellent Level Fragment Card, 1,000 Immortal Dynasty Points. Sister Tongzi, how come the Immortal Dynasty mode has been upgraded to Dynasty? Are there any benefits? Yi Lingtian looked at the attribute panel and raised his eyebrows slightly. The upgrade rules of Immortal Dynasty mode. You can upgrade your dynasty with 1 martial sovereign and 3 martial kings, and so on. After upgrading the dynasty, you can get fragments of the Peerless card by signing in. The higher the level of the Immortal Dynasty mode, the higher the probability of getting the Peerless card by signing in. Next level, enable Peerless level fragment card redemption function. Loli Tongzi explained, and by the way introduced Yi Lingtian's preview function of promotion to the Divine Dynasty. Yi Lingtian understood clearly. He then unfolded the attribute of dynasty strength and found that there was indeed 1 more martial king realm powerhouse recorded in it. Hai Qinghu, intermediate martial king, loyalty 10. Yi Lingtian felt numb when he saw Hai Qinghu's loyalty. If this kind of loyalty were placed in the game, it would be like actively surrendering to the enemy as soon as the battle screen comes out. Sister Tongzi, with Hai Qinghu's loyalty, can you be considered as conquering the Tianai dynasty? Yi Lingtian couldn't help but complain in his heart. Even if Hai Qinghu admits it himself, whether he is loyal to his master or not is not within the scope of this system's consideration. Not to mention, it's a good thing for the master. Wouldn't it be nice to let Hai Qinghu enter the register and earn 1,000 Immortal Dynasty points for you before you die? Yi Lingtian, all right, what you said makes sense, but I am speechless. King Tianai, since you are so sincere, how can I not accept you? With you, the martial king, joining me, I will be more confident in safeguarding the martial sovereign inheritance. Yi Lingtian vowed. Don't worry, after everything is over, as long as you are in the martial king realm of the Qingyan dynasty, everyone who inherits the martial sovereign will have a share. The corners of Hai Qinghu's mouth twitched. He was still waiting for Yi Lingtian to give him the martial sovereign inheritance immediately. Who knew Yi Lingtian would leave it here to draw cakes for him? His original plan was to deceive the martial sovereign inheritance and run away directly. Now Yi Lingtian would use such a move, which was obviously to drag him into the water. This kid doesn't seem to be able to fool around like that. Hai Qinghu sighed slightly in his heart. Next, he can only act according to circumstances. Phew. Just as Yi Lingtian was talking to Hai Qinghu, 2 more Taoist figures came through the air and quickly landed on the top of Fengqi Mountain. Zan Yutang, the king of Zan Kang dynasty. Chu Yilong, the king of the Western Chu dynasty. 2 powerful men from the martial king realm are coming together. Are you all here? Yi Lingtian glanced at the 2 of them, and then looked somewhere below Fengqi Mountain. Those at the foot of the mountain, now that they are here, stop hiding. As soon as Yi Lingtian said these words, at the bottom of Fengqi Mountain, 3 powerful martial king auras rose into the sky and turned into 3 Taoist figures in front of Yi Lingtian and the others. Thunder Dynasty King Lei Xuantong. Li Daoxin, the national advisor of Jinglei Dynasty. Wu Yin, king of the southern Wu Dynasty. Looking at these 3 people, the expressions of Hai Qinghu and others couldn't help but change slightly. Lei Xuantong and Li Daoxin are both prestigious top-level martial kings, one of the few top experts in the northern wasteland. Wu Yin, the king of the southern Wu dynasty, was single-handedly supported by the Jinglei dynasty. 3 martial king realms are dispatched at once. 2 of them are also top-level martial kings. For the inheritance of martial sovereign, Thunder Dynasty obviously spent a lot of money. Yi Lingtian, the martial sovereign inheritance is not within your Qingyan dynasty's reach. Lei Xuantong stared straight at Yi Lingtian and said in a tone that left no room for doubt, "Give the martial sovereign inheritance to me, and I may be able to spare you the murder of Lei Mysterious Light." Lei Xuantong's domineering behavior also made Hai Qinghu and the other three look unhappy. But, even though they were extremely dissatisfied in their hearts, they did not dare to show it. The Thunder Dynasty is powerful. Especially the two top-level martial kings, Lei Xuantong and Li Daoxin, except for the Tianqian Dynasty and the Dawang Dynasty, no one can defeat them. Currently, neither the Tianqian Dynasty nor the Great Wilderness Dynasty have appeared yet. Going against Lei Xuantong at this time is no different than seeking death. Since Lei Xuantong and martial sovereign inheritance are in the territory of Qingyan Dynasty, they belong to Qingyan Dynasty. Who do you think you are? You dare to get your hands on something belonging to the Qingyan Dynasty? Yi Lingtian glanced at Lei Xuantong indifferently. Speak in a lower voice, my subordinate is inheriting the martial sovereign inheritance, and you have already disturbed him. If you don't eat the toast, you'll be fined with alcohol. Lei Xuantong became angry and raised his hand to slap Yi Lingtian. The lightning around him surged and quickly gathered into a huge thunder palm, suppressing Yi Lingtian with terrifying power. Although the Tianqian Dynasty and the Dawang Dynasty have not yet appeared due to some reasons, this does not mean that they have no ideas about the martial sovereign inheritance. The longer it is delayed, the more detrimental it will be to the Thunder Dynasty. Before the two dynasties appeared, Lei Xuantong decided to fight quickly. Kill Yi Lingtian. Seize the martial sovereign inheritance as quickly as possible. Yi Lingtian stood motionless on the spot, allowing Lei Xuantong's thunder palm to suppress him. However, before the thunder palm came close to the 3 feet around Yi Lingtian, it disappeared without a trace in an instant like a stone thrown into the sea. Lei Xuantong's eyes couldn't help but condense suddenly. Originally before this, Lei Xuantong did not believe that Yi Lingtian had the ability to kill the high-level martial king Lei Mysterious Light, thinking that there must be a hidden secret. Until now, Lei Mysterious Light has to believe it. To be able to block his attack so lightly, Yi Lingtian must be a top-tier martial king. Lei Xuantong, don't you just want the inheritance of martial sovereign? I will give you a chance. Yi Lingtian smiled and said, with the Thunder Dynasty, surrender to me. As long as you are the martial king of the Qingyan Dynasty, you can obtain the martial sovereign inheritance unconditionally. Haha, it's so ridiculous. Even the Tianqian Dynasty and the Great Wild Dynasty are not qualified to make the Jinglei Dynasty surrender, so who do you think the Qingyan Dynasty is? Lei Xuantong smiled coldly, with murderous intent in his eyes. The national preceptor, the king of Nanwu, will accompany me to kill this son. Since it's difficult to kill this guy in a single fight, let's fight in a group. If 1-on-1 doesn't work, wouldn't 3-on-1 work? When Li Daoxin and Wu Yin heard this, they both took one step forward, and the powerful martial king aura was firmly locked on Yi Lingtian's body. Looking at the scene in front of me, Zhan Yutang and Chu Yilong looked at each other, feeling somewhat sympathetic to Yi Lingtian. Two top-level martial kings, a high-level martial king. With such a strong lineup, martial sovereign is simply unstoppable. Yi Lingtian and the Qingyan Dynasty are over. And the other side. Hai Qinghu, an old Yinbi, turned around with his sinister eyes, and moved toward the cave behind without leaving any trace. Yi Lingtian is powerful, not inferior to top-level martial king like Lei Xuantong. Even if Lei Xuantong and the three of them join forces, they may not be able to kill Yi Lingtian in a short while. While Yi Lingtian was restraining Lei Xuantong and the others, he could just sneak into the cave, seize the martial sovereign inheritance, and then run away. This is also his only chance to get the martial sovereign inheritance. Otherwise, once Lei Xuantong and the other two have finished off Yi Lingtian, the martial sovereign inheritance may really have no chance with him. However, imagination is wonderful, the reality is cruel. Hai Qinghu's little moves couldn't hide it from Yu Wushwang's eyes. She raised her little hand and pressed lightly on Hai Qinghu. Hai Qinghu knelt on the ground with a plop. Quote? Hai Qinghu was confused, and it took him a while to come back to his senses. Looking at Yu Wushwang in front of him, Hai Qinghu looked frightened, and even spoke awkwardly. Where did this little girl become a monster? His majestic mid-level martial king was subdued by a 7 or 8-year-old girl with one move. Are you afraid that you have seen a ghost? Old guy, no one is allowed to go near the cave without master's permission. Yu Wushwang looked at Hai Qinghu expressionlessly. Since you are so dishonest, then just kneel here and wait for master to be punished. These few days, Yu Wushwang has already reached the top level of Martial King in the Hongmeng Tower. If it hadn't taken some time to create and perfect the technique, she might have already broken through to the Martial Sovereign level. A mid-level Martial King like Hai Qinghu, Yu Wushwang, isn't that just a snap of his fingers to suppress him? Zhan Yutang and Chu Yilong's eyes widened immediately, and they couldn't believe what they saw. The majestic king of the Tianai dynasty, the middle-level Martial King Hai Qinghu, was suppressed by that little girl from the Qingyan dynasty. A little girl of 7 or 8 years old has the terrifying power to suppress the mid-level Martial King. Such a monster's talent, even those emperor-level geniuses in the northern wasteland are far from being able to compare with them. How could the Qingyan dynasty have such a heaven-defying existence? The two looked at each other and saw unprecedented shock in each other's eyes. This Qingyan dynasty is so weird. They suddenly had a feeling. Lei Xuantong and Jinglei dynasty are afraid that they will fall into the hands of Qingyan dynasty. And just then, Lei Xuantong and 3 others attacked Yi Lingtian almost at the same time. Lei Xuantong punched out, and the thunder and lightning fist tore through the space. Li Daoxin formed a seal, and the blazing fire made the surrounding temperature rise suddenly. Wu Yin sacrificed an ancient ingot sword made of black iron, and the sharp sword energy spread across all directions. 3 powerful forces came towards Yi Lingtian from different angles. Why seek death? Yi Lingtian shook his head and drew his sword in the air. Next moment, the heads of Lei Xuantong and the others flew out without warning and fell into the abyss below Fengqi Mountain. At the same time, the powerful offensive launched by Lei Xuantong and the others disappeared instantly with the death of their master. ... There was deathly silence at the top of Fengqi Mountain. Zhan Yutang and Chu Yilong looked at the headless corpses of Lei Xuantong and the others, their faces were horrified and their scalps were numb. 2 top-tier martial kings. A high-ranking martial king. He died just like that. Killing the top-level martial king is like slaughtering chickens and dogs. This is definitely not something that the power of the martial king realm can do. Martial sovereign. This king of the Qingyan dynasty is most likely already a strong man in the martial sovereign realm. The 3rd martial sovereign in the northern wasteland in 10,000 years was born. Zhan Yutang, Chu Yilong, pays homage to Emperor Qingyan. Zhan Yutang and Chu Yilong came to their senses and both knelt down in front of Yi Lingtian respectfully. Yi Lingtian looked at the 2 of them and said calmly, "In 10 days, the Qingyan dynasty will be promoted to the Qingyan dynasty. Come to Qingyan King City to see me." "As you command." The 2 of them responded quickly and respectfully. Martial sovereign is born. The situation of the 10 major dynasties competing for supremacy in the northern wasteland will definitely be rewritten. They have no other choice but to surrender. This guy is actually martial sovereign. Hai Qinghu, who was half kneeling on the ground, trembled at the corner of his mouth and almost peed out of fear. What a mistake. If he had known that Yi Lingtian had the strength of the martial sovereign realm, he would have just stayed with Yi Lingtian. Why would he have caused so many troubles? He quickly shouted to Yi Lingtian. "Congratulations to Emperor Qingyan, your subordinates and the Tianai dynasty will fully support you in creating a new dynasty in the northern wasteland." Looking at Hai Qinghu, who regarded himself as a subordinate, Yi Lingtian couldn't help but check Hai Qinghu's information. Hai Qinghu, intermediate martial king, loyalty 15. ... Seeing that Hai Qinghu only gained 5 points of loyalty under the shock of his martial sovereign power, Yi Lingtian couldn't help but feel speechless. He was finally convinced by this old man. This old guy puts interests first and has no loyalty at all. If you have milk, you are a mother. As long as there are enough benefits, it is not a problem to change the adoptive father who is more diligent than changing clothes. Yi Lingtian was too lazy to talk nonsense, raised his hand and cut off Hai Qinghu's head with a sword. A scumbag with more than a dozen loyalties. If I don't kill them, will I still keep them for the new year? Qingyan dynasty, Wangcheng. Since the battle at Fengqishan, the senior officials of the Qingyan dynasty headed by Wei Xian have become busy. There is no other reason. Because Yi Lingtian has broken through the martial sovereign realm and became the only martial sovereign in the northern wasteland. The Qingyan dynasty is about to be promoted to the Qingyan dynasty and unify the northern wasteland. In just a few days, Qingyan royal city has undergone great changes. The entire royal city looks much more majestic, as if it exudes an aura of dominion over the world. while the Qingyan dynasty was preparing to be promoted to the dynasty. What happened in Fengqi Mountain was like a hurricane, quickly sweeping through the northern wasteland. Qingyan King Yi Lingtian killed the 3 martial kings headed by Lei Xuantong, revealing the powerful strength of the martial sovereign realm, and is about to establish the Qingyan dynasty. The entire northern wasteland was shaken. Martial sovereign is born, and the dynasty is established. Everyone feels it keenly. The sky in the northern wilderness territory is probably going to change. Tianqian dynasty. After Duan Jingcan received the news from Feng Keshan, he couldn't recover from the shock for a while. He thought about many possibilities, but never thought that Yi Lingtian, the new king of the Qingyan dynasty, would break through the martial sovereign realm. To know, Yi Lingtian is still just a 20-year-old boy. 20-year-old martial sovereign. How is this possible? Your Majesty, Yi Lingtian has broken through the martial sovereign. Duan Jinggying and Yi Zongshu may have fallen into Yi Lingtian's hands. Master Yi Yang looked solemn and said, in a few days, Yi Lingtian will confer sovereign to establish the Qingyan dynasty. I wonder how the king plans to deal with it. What's the master's response? Duan Jingcan's eyes were extremely gloomy. Back then, the emperor of the northern wilderness was so eager for success that he became obsessed with cultivation. Seizing the opportunity, the Tianqian sect originally wanted to take advantage of the situation and seize the inheritance of the Beiwang emperor, thereby replacing the Beiwang dynasty's position in the Beiwang territory. But after all, they still underestimated the strong ones in the martial sovereign realm. Although martial sovereign and the top-level martial king are only one step away, their strength is in the sky and on earth. Even though the Beiwang emperor went crazy and suffered backlash, he still severely damaged Tianqian sect. After that battle, the Tianqian sect and the Northern Wilderness dynasty both suffered losses. No one had the ability to control the entire Northern Wilderness territory, which led to the formation of 10 dynasties in the Northern Wilderness territory. Back then, they paid a huge price when they faced the obsessed Beiwang emperor. What can you do to compete with Yi Lingtian now? After hearing Duan Jingcan's question, Master Yi Yang also fell silent. Under absolute power, all resistance is futile. They now only have 2 options. Either surrender, or die, unless the Tianqian dynasty can have a martial sovereign realm expert who can rival Yi Lingtian. Boom! Just when Duan Jingcan and Master Yi Yang fell into silence at the same time, a terrifying aura that towered over the martial king realm suddenly rose into the sky and instantly filled the sky above Tianqian King City. Even top-level martial kings like Duan Jingcan and Master Yi Yang were frightened. Is this the aura of martial sovereign? Duan Jingcan was stunned for a moment, and then couldn't help showing an expression of ecstasy. Success. Ancestor. He succeeded. The Tianqian dynasty also gave birth to the martial sovereign realm. God bless his Tianqian dynasty. The Great Wilderness Dynasty. Ever since the Northern Wilderness Dynasty fell apart, the Great Wilderness Dynasty, which has the heritage of the Northern Wilderness Dynasty, has been keeping a very low profile. But, in the entire Northern Wilderness territory, no one dared to underestimate the Great Wilderness Dynasty. The Great Wilderness Dynasty is still one of the top forces in the Northern Wilderness territory. I never expected that a new martial sovereign would be born in the Northern Wasteland so quickly after the death of our ancestors. Deep in the Great Wilderness Palace, a middle-aged man frowned tightly. The middle-aged man looked to be in his 40s, with silver hair, a sturdy back, and a kingly aura that made people dare not look at him. The middle-aged man is Huang Wufang, the king of the Great Wild Dynasty. In the battle that year, the ancestor of the Northern Wilderness Emperor fell, and the Northern Wilderness Dynasty, which had ruled the Northern Wilderness territory for thousands of years, collapsed. Huang Wufang relied on the foundation of the Northern Wilderness Dynasty to stabilize his position in the Northern Wilderness territory and founded the Great Wilderness Dynasty, which kept pace with the Tianqian dynasty founded by the Tianqian sect. These years, Huang Wufang was very low-key and had been concentrating on his cultivation. He almost never participated in the struggles between the major dynasties in the Northern Wasteland. Because he knows his advantages very well. He has the background of the Northern Wasteland dynasty and the martial sovereign inheritance left by his ancestors. He is the most promising existence in the Northern Wasteland to break through the martial sovereign. Just break through the martial sovereign realm. sweeping other dynasties in the Northern Wilderness Territory and reappearing. The former glory of the Northern Wilderness Dynasty is just a piece of cake. Only, the space between the martial king realm and the martial sovereign realm is like a chasm. Huang Wufang has been cultivating quietly for many years, but he has only half stepped into the martial sovereign realm and touched the threshold of the martial sovereign realm. As long as he is given another 3 to 5 years, Huang Wufang is sure to break through to the martial sovereign realm. But I didn't expect it. But at this time in the northern wasteland, a strong man from the martial sovereign realm was born. As a direct descendant of the Northern Wilderness Emperor, Huang Wufang understands the power of martial sovereign better than most people. As strong as the top-tier martial king, it is no different from an ant in terms of martial sovereign. If the ancestors had not suffered backlash and their strength was less than 1/10 of their peak, Tianqian sect would not have had any chance at all. Martial sovereign comes out, and the dynasty is established. Elder Zong, does this king really have no chance? Huang Wufang looked at the old man in gray clothes next to him, with a look of extreme unwillingness on his face. Your Majesty, there is no chance at all. The gray-clothed old man's eyes flickered slightly, and then he slowly said, every 60 years, the Beidou Heavenly Territory Blood Fiend Divine Sect will send envoys to the Northern Wilderness Territory. Counting the time, it should be these few days. Blood Fiend Divine Sect, envoy from heaven. A sharp light flashed in Huang Wufang's eyes. As a direct descendant of the Northern Wilderness Emperor, Huang Wufang naturally knew about the existence of the Blood Fiend Divine Sect. Blood Fiend Divine Sect, a god-level sect from the Beidou Heavenly Territory, not only has numerous martial sovereign realm sect members under its sect, but also has martial god realm powerhouses. Every 60 years, the Northern Wasteland Dynasty will pay tribute to the Blood Fiend Divine Sect with countless resources. Blood Fiend Divine Sect will send envoys to collect it. It can be said, the Northern Wasteland Dynasty is an affiliated force of the Blood Fiend Divine Sect. Even their ancestor, the Northern Wilderness Emperor, obtained the Emperor-level skills to break through the martial sovereign realm through the Blood Fiend Divine Sect. Now that martial sovereign is born in the Northern Wasteland, if he wants to recreate the glory of the Northern Wasteland Dynasty, he can only place his hopes on the Blood Fiend Divine Sect. In the Xuanwang Great World, there is an extremely powerful barrier between domains, which cannot be crossed by those without martial sovereign. That's why, the Blood Fiend Divine Sect envoy is at least a martial sovereign. Only with the help of this envoy's power, can he be qualified to compete with the new emperor of the Northern Wilderness Territory. Your Majesty, a mysterious man who claims to be the envoy of heaven has broken into the palace and wants you to see him in person. At this moment, a palace guard came to report in a panic. Huang Wufang suddenly became energetic. I feel really sleepy and someone gives me a pillow. This envoy of the Blood Fiend Divine Sect came at the right time. Qingyan Dynasty, Royal Palace Garden. Yi Lingtian was lying on the homemade hammock, drinking tea and sunbathing with a leisurely expression. Sister Tongzi, sign in and clock in. Ding, the sign-in was successful. Congratulations to the owner for getting 6 Peerless Yi Mo fragment cards. Ha, his character exploded, and he actually signed in and got a Peerless fragment card. Yi Lingtian quickly opened the virtual space and his eyes fell on the orange fragment card in the first grid. The strongest abandoned young master in the world, Peerless Yi Mo, 6/50ths. Obviously, Peerless character cards are more difficult to synthesize than outstanding character cards, and you need to collect 50 fragment cards. But Yi Lingtian didn't care. He is still in the martial sovereign state. Even if he encounters trouble, using the excellent purple card is enough to solve it. As long as you keep signing in every day, you will one day be able to synthesize a unique character card. Looking past the Peerless Yi Mo fragment card, Yi Lingtian looked at the outstanding fragment card he owned. Currently possessing the largest number of outstanding fragment cards, he is a strong person native to the Xuanwang Great World. Xuanwang Great World. Excellent Yi Qinglian, 17/30ths. After redeeming the king-level Confucianism and Taoism inheritance, Yi Lingtian still had 11,000 Immortal Dynasty points left. In recent times, Tuo Bazan, who practices Confucianism, has also gained strength comparable to that of the martial king, contributing 1,000 Immortal Dynasty points to him. That is to say, with only 1,000 Immortal Dynasty points left, Yiling Tian can redeem enough Universal Excellent Fragment cards to synthesize the excellent Yi Qinglian. The Qingyan dynasty will be promoted to the Qingyan dynasty in a few days. It should increase a lot of Immortal Dynasty points, right? Yiling Tian murmured to himself, vaguely looking forward to the scene of Immortal Dynasty points skyrocketing. Your Majesty, something serious has happened. Just as Yiling Tian was deep in thought, a slightly solemn voice suddenly woke him up. Yiling Tian looked up and saw Wei Xian hurriedly coming to him. Wei Xian was thrown into the Hongmeng Tower by Yiling Tian and practiced for a while, and his cultivation had already broken through the Venerable Realm. Then, with the help of Yiling Tian, he obtained the martial sovereign inheritance and improved his cultivation to a higher level. Today, Wei Xian is already a top-level martial venerable. What happened? Yiling Tian sat up straight and asked curiously. Today, Wei Xian is his spokesperson in the Qingyan dynasty. He leaves all matters of the Qingyan dynasty to Wei Xian to handle on his behalf. Wei Xian, a qualified tool man, also knew his temperament very well. Unless something major happens, Wei Xian usually won't disturb him easily. Your Majesty, the Tianqian dynasty sent an invitation. Wei Xian directly handed an invitation to Yiling Tian. Invitation, or from the Tianqian dynasty. Yiling Tian opened the invitation with a puzzled look on his face, and the content inside instantly came into view. I, the ancestor of Tianqian, conferred sovereign, will establish the Tianqian dynasty in 3 days, and specially invite King Qingyan to come and watch the ceremony. Yiling Tian's eyes narrowed slightly. The ancestor of Tianqian, the founder of Tianqian sect, was also the core figure who overthrew the rule of the Northern Wilderness dynasty. Has this old guy also broken through the martial sovereign realm? Your Majesty, the ancestor of Tianqian has broken through the martial sovereign realm and now established the dynasty 1 day ahead of us. I am afraid that the situation in the northern wasteland will change a lot. Wei Xian said with a solemn expression. Before Patriarch Tianqian broke through to the martial sovereign realm, Yiling Tian was the only martial sovereign realm expert in the northern wasteland. No one among the 10 major dynasties in the northern wasteland dared to disobey Yiling Tian's orders. Now that the ancestor of Zen today has broken through the martial sovereign realm, this also gives everyone one more choice. Compared with the Tianqian dynasty, the Qingyan dynasty has no advantages in all aspects. I am afraid that many dynasties will choose to attach themselves to the Tianqian dynasty. It doesn't matter, let's go meet this Tianqian patriarch in 3 days. Yiling Tian smiled lightly. He is a top-level martial sovereign. Even if Patriarch Tianqian breaks through the martial sovereign realm, he is still at the elementary level of martial sovereign and cannot make any waves in front of him. Originally, Yiling Tian plans to establish the Qingyan dynasty and then go to the Tianqian dynasty to exchange for his uncle Yi Qinglei. Now I have to go to Tianqian dynasty in advance. While the two were talking, Tuo Bazan also hurriedly walked into the imperial garden. In his hand, he suddenly held something similar to an invitation. Tuo Bazan, don't tell me, what you are holding is also an invitation, right? A strange look appeared in Yiling Tian's eyes. Your Majesty, this is not an invitation, but a summons from the Northern Wilderness dynasty. Tuo Bazan was stunned for a moment, then shook his head and said, the Great Wilderness dynasty used the summoning order of the Northern Wilderness dynasty to ask the kings of the major dynasties to go to the Great Wilderness royal city within 3 days. Yiling Tian's eyes narrowed slightly. Yiling Tian also heard about the summoning order of the Northern Wilderness dynasty. When the Northern Wilderness dynasty ruled the Northern Wilderness territory, the Northern Wilderness emperor created many vassal kings. Only big things happen. Only the emperor of Beiwang would summon the vassal king with a summons order. Nowadays, the Great Wilderness dynasty, which has always kept a low profile, has actually issued a summons for the Northern Wilderness dynasty. It seems that some people in the Great Wilderness dynasty have broken through to the martial sovereign realm. Interesting. Yiling Tian received the summoning order, scanned it casually, and said with a smile, the ancestor of Tianqian of the Tianqian dynasty broke through the martial sovereign realm. I wonder who from the Great Wilderness dynasty broke through the martial sovereign realm. Your Majesty, it would be fine if only one person from the Great Wilderness dynasty breaks through to the martial sovereign realm, but I'm afraid things won't be that simple. Tuo Bazan's expression looked extremely solemn. The ancestors of their Tuoba family once followed the Northern Wilderness Emperor to conquer the world. Tuoba Zan naturally knew the Northern Wilderness dynasty better than Yilingtian and the others. Did the Northern Wasteland dynasty back then still have forces behind it? When Yilingtian heard this, he couldn't help but raise his eyebrows slightly. Tuoba Zan took a deep breath and said slowly, "The power behind the Northern Wasteland dynasty is the divine sect from the Beidou heavenly territory." Beidou Tianyu, divine sect. Yilingtian's heart trembled. The Xuanwang Great World is composed of countless large and small domains. These domains are divided into mortal domain, celestial domain, and main domain. There are thousands of people in the mortal realm, and it is almost impossible to give birth to a strong person above the martial sovereign realm. There are only 4 heavenly realms, known as the 4 great heavenly realms, which rule thousands of mortal realms. Beidou Tianyu is one of them. The strength of the heaven realm is so great that not only are there numerous martial god martial saints, but there are even powerful martial emperor realm warriors. As for the main domain, there is only one Xuanwang Great World, which is called the Xuanwang Main Domain, and is also the main world of the Xuanwang Great World. In that place, there is even a powerful being from the fairyland above the Emperor realm. Since the force behind the Northern Wasteland dynasty is the divine sect from the Beidou heavenly territory, there must be a martial god realm powerhouse sitting in charge. It's quite a troublesome thing. But Yilingtian was not too worried. The Northern Wilderness Territory can only be regarded as a small and low-ranking territory among the mortal realms. Even if the divine sect of the heavenly realm sends people to help the Great Wilderness Dynasty, it is impossible for them to be powerful in the martial god realm. Under the martial god, Yilingtian is invincible. Not to mention, as long as he gets another 1,000 immortal dynasty points, he can synthesize a new excellent character card. With this trump card, it's just a divine sect in heaven. He can destroy it with just a raise of his hand. 3 days passed by in a flash. Soon the day came when the conferred sovereign ceremony of Tianqian Patriarch was held. This day, outside the ancestral temple of Tianqian King City, there is a huge square that can accommodate 10,000 people. It can be said that there is a sea of people and crowns gathered together. Venerable realms, which are rarely seen in ordinary times, are everywhere. Even the number of martial king realm experts reached more than 10. Suddenly, the door of the ancestral temple opened. I saw an old man wearing a black dragon-patterned robe stepping out of the ancestral temple. Although the old man seemed to be very old, his figure was not even slightly rickety, his eyes were bright and clear, and his whole body exuded a powerful aura that made people dare not look down upon him. As soon as he appeared, even the martial king realm experts present could not help but feel like they wanted to worship. Sha Feng, king of Eastern Sha, congratulates Patriarch Tianqian on his breakthrough to martial sovereign. Wu Quan, king of Southern Wu, congratulates Patriarch Tianqian on his breakthrough to martial sovereign. Thunder King Lei Mu, congratulations to Patriarch Tianqian for breaking through martial sovereign. As Patriarch Tianqian appeared, people from all the major dynasties in the northern wasteland who came to watch the ceremony came forward to congratulate and offer gifts. But, among the 10 major dynasties, only the kings of the Eastern Sha, Southern Wu, and Jinglei dynasties came in person. Zan Kang and Shi Chu just sent an envoy. Of the 4 remaining dynasties, no one even showed up at all. On the square, some martial artists who came here to watch the conferred sovereign ceremony could not help but whisper. The conferred sovereign ceremony of Patriarch Tianqian seems a bit shabby. It's just something that was expected. Qingyan King Yilingtian has broken through martial sovereign one step ahead of Tianqian's ancestors. The Great Wilderness Dynasty also has martial sovereign. How can Tianqian Dynasty be the only one? Tisk tisk. The 3 martial sovereign realm experts. Such a grand event has not happened in the northern wasteland for who knows how many years. The situation in which the 10 major dynasties in the northern wasteland are competing for supremacy may turn into 3 major dynasties competing for supremacy. Naturally, the discussion in the square could not be hidden from the ears of Patriarch Tianqian. His complexion also became less good-looking. The Eastern Sha dynasty was originally the younger brother of the Tianqian dynasty. The previous kings of the Southern Wu dynasty and the Jinglei dynasty both fell at the hands of Yilingtian, and they had deep grudges with Yilingtian. It is almost reasonable for these 3 dynasties to surrender. But Patriarch Tianqian never thought of it. Except for these 3 dynasties, no one takes his martial sovereign seriously. Ancestor, will the conferred sovereign ceremony begin now? Next to the ancestor of Tianqian, Martial King, a member of the Tianqian dynasty who was responsible for hosting the conferred sovereign ceremony, couldn't help but ask in a low voice. Patriarch Tianqian nodded. Before he could speak, a faint voice suddenly came from outside Tianqian King's city. Yi Lingtian came to visit Patriarch Tianqian. Although this voice was dull, it was extremely penetrating and clearly resounded in the ears of everyone in Tianqian King's city. That moment, the entire Tianqian King's city fell into silence. Everyone couldn't help but look up in the direction of the sound. I saw an extraordinary young man in gold robes, carrying a powerful aura, heading towards Tianqian King's city like a god coming to the world. In his hand, he was also carrying a figure who looked embarrassed. After some sharp-eyed people saw the face of this Taoist figure, they couldn't help but exclaimed. Tianqian King Clan High-Level Martial King Duan Jinggying. No one could have imagined it. Yi Lingtian will appear at Ancestor Tianqian's conferred sovereign ceremony. And he still came here carrying Tianqian King Clan's high-level Martial King Duan Jinggying. This is obviously a sign of bad intentions. Ancestor Tianqian narrowed his eyes slightly. He stared at Yi Lingtian coldly and said slowly, King Qingyan, I didn't expect you to show up at my conferred sovereign ceremony. It's really surprising. Ancestor Tianqian, Yi came here today mainly for 2 things. Yi Lingtian didn't waste any nonsense and said straight to the point. The first thing is to use Duan Jinggying to replace someone from your Tianqian dynasty. Substitution. Patriarch Tianqian was slightly startled. He was about to ask, but Duan Jingcan came to him and whispered a few words. After Patriarch Tianqian learned about the situation, he said calmly, bring Yi Qinglei here and exchange Duan Jinggying with him. Use a Yi Qinglei to intimidate a martial sovereign like Yi Lingtian. This is basically impossible. Don't say that Yi Qinglei is just an uncle that Yi Lingtian has never met. Even if it is Yi Lingtian's biological father, it is unknown whether he can coerce Yi Lingtian. If it were him, even if someone threatens him with his own son to surrender, he will not be disturbed in the slightest. The worst-case scenario is to practice trumpet again. Duan Jinggying is the martial Dao genius of the Tianqian dynasty. He broke through to the high-level martial king at the age of less than 40. In the future, he is expected to break through to the martial sovereign realm. It's not a loss to exchange Yi Qinglei for Duan Jinggying. Following the instructions from Patriarch Tianqian, Duan Jingcan quickly had someone lift an old man in plain clothes who was in a coma to Yi Lingtian. Yi Lingtian glanced at the old man in plain clothes. Although he has never met Yi Qinglei, he can tell the truth from the falsehood from the facial contour of the old man in plain clothes and the aura of his bloodline that is very similar to him. Yi Lingtian didn't say much. He directly threw Duan Jinggying to Ancestor Tianqian, and then took Yi Qinglei into Hongmeng Tower. Ancestor Tianqian handed Duan Jinggying to Duan Jingcan and looked at Yi Lingtian calmly. King Qingyan, the people have changed. I wonder what the second thing is. This second thing. Yi Lingtian raised his head and looked at the ancestor of Tianqian, and said word by word, of course I will prevent you from establishing the Tianqian dynasty. Wow. As soon as Yi Lingtian said these words, the square suddenly went into an uproar. It never occurred to them. Yi Lingtian actually wants to prevent the ancestor of Tianqian from establishing the Tianqian dynasty. How dare he? Today's ancestor of Tianqian is also a genuine martial sovereign realm powerhouse. Yi Lingtian, what do you mean? Patriarch Tianqian's expression instantly became extremely gloomy. That's literally what it means. Yi Lingtian said calmly. Ancestor Tianqian, how about a battle between you and me, and the losing side joins the other side and assists the other side in establishing a dynasty? Yi Lingtian, don't forget, there is a great wilderness dynasty in the northern wilderness territory. The fight between you and me will only benefit the fishermen of the great wilderness dynasty. The ancestor of Tianqian stared at Yi Lingtian coldly. I will establish the Tianqian dynasty, and you will establish the Qingyan dynasty. We will not interfere with the river, isn't it good? Ancestor Tianqian did not want to be an enemy of Yi Lingtian at this time. After all, once he and Yi Lingtian fight with each other, it will only benefit the Great Wild Dynasty. More importantly, Yi Lingtian is so evil. At just 20 years old, he already has the strength of a martial sovereign level. Although they are both martial sovereigns, Patriarch Tianqian is still very afraid of Yi Lingtian. Don't do it until you have no choice. Ancestor Tianqian didn't want to fight Yi Lingtian either. Not good. Yi Lingtian shook his head, his faint voice sounding domineering. Don't worry, after I deal with you, I will go to the Great Wilderness Dynasty. In the northern wasteland, one Qingyan dynasty is enough. Okay. Patriarch Tianqian laughed angrily. The powerful aura of the martial sovereign realm also burst out without reservation at this moment. Yi Lingtian, I have tolerated you over and over again, but you insist on forcing me to do so. Do you really think that I am a soft persimmon that you can manipulate? Yi Lingtian said nothing. He raised his hand and pointed in the air. Call out. An illusory golden sword exuding the aura of immortality fell straight from the sky above the head of Patriarch Tianqian without any warning. Plop. Before Patriarch Tianqian could react, he was half kneeling on the ground suppressed by the illusory golden sword. The terrifying impact made the entire square tremble. I saw that the bluestone ground under the feet of Patriarch Tianqian was constantly cracking, and huge cracks spread rapidly around like spider webs. Quiet. The huge square with tens of thousands of people fell into a dead silence at this moment. Everyone's eyes were dull, as if they were seeing ghosts. When two powerful men from the martial sovereign realm fought against each other, they originally thought they would witness an earth-shattering battle. Who knew that Yi Lingtian just pointed his finger in the air and a sword light suppressed Patriarch Tianqian? Martial sovereign. So scary. Impossible. This is simply impossible. Ancestor Tianqian looked confused. His whole body received 100,000 critical hits, and he let out an unbelievable roar. Although Patriarch Tianqian also knows. Monsters like Yi Jingtian are definitely more powerful than ordinary martial sovereigns, but they are not that powerful, right? He was killed by Yi Lingtian before he could react. Fake. This is absolutely fake. What? You're not convinced? Do you feel like you're not ready, or do you feel like you're being careless? Yi Lingtian raised his hand and waved, and the immortal sword intent that suppressed Patriarch Tianqian instantly dissipated. He hooked his fingers at Patriarch Tianqian. Come on, I will give you another chance. Boom. The ancestor of Tianqian who regained his freedom, the powerful martial sovereign aura burst out again. His hands suddenly formed seals. The terrifying imperial power roared out from the body, stirring the sky. The vitality of heaven and earth with a radius of 100 feet gathered crazily towards the head of Patriarch Tianqian, and finally turned into a huge golden palm, like a Buddha's light, and suppressed Yi Lingtian. This moment, everyone in the square seemed to be suffocating under the pressure of the giant golden palm. This is the difference between martial sovereign and martial king. Although the martial king realm is powerful, it still relies on the powerful true energy stored in itself to launch attacks. When you reach the martial sovereign state, you can use the power of heaven and earth for your own use in a small area. Compare the two. It can be said that there is one heaven and one underground. Facing Patriarch Tianqian's all-out blow, Yi Lingtian looked indifferent. He once again activated his immortal sword intention, condensed a golden 3-foot small sword, and lightly slashed it towards the golden giant palm. Poof! The golden sword was like cutting tofu, instantly splitting the golden palm into two. Next moment, the golden giant palm shattered suddenly, turning into golden light and dissipating in midair. And at the same time as the giant palm dissipated, the golden sword was directly nailed to the forehead of Patriarch Tianqian without any warning, causing Patriarch Tianqian's body to freeze in place again. You. Patriarch Tianqian looked horrified, and felt a deep sense of powerlessness in his heart. The gap between him and Yi Lingtian is really too big. Not an opponent at all. Yi Lingtian looked down at Patriarch Tianqian and said calmly, "My patience is limited. I will ask you one last time, are you convinced or not?" Change to before. Yi Lingtian didn't bother to waste time at all. He would probably kill Patriarch Tianqian directly in his first attack. Ever since there was the precedent of Haiqinghu, Yi Lingtian felt that he needed to change. You can't kill your opponent just by saying a disagreement. As long as you are willing to surrender, then give others a chance to surrender and earn a wave of immortal dynasty points. Then look at the other person's loyalty. Those with low loyalty will be killed. For those with high loyalty, it would be good to stay as a tool. The power of Emperor Qingyan is unparalleled, I am convinced. The Tianqian dynasty is willing to surrender to the Qingyan dynasty, and the Qingyan dynasty will be respected from now on. Ancestor Tianqian smiled bitterly, and his whole body seemed to have aged a bit instantly. Back then, by chance, he received the inheritance from a top martial king and founded the Tianzhen sect in the northern wasteland. Then he was favored by the emperor of Beiwang, and gradually developed the Tianqian sect and became one of the top forces in the Beiwang dynasty, and his ambitions gradually sprouted. Later, the Beiwang emperor went too far in his cultivation and suffered a backlash. Patriarch Tianqian felt that his opportunity had come. However, although he led the Tianqian sect to destroy the Beiwang dynasty, in the end he and the Beiwang dynasty suffered losses and failed to achieve his goal. This time, he made a desperate move, practiced the incomplete mysterious technique, and finally succeeded in breaking through the martial sovereign realm. He originally thought, having broken through the martial sovereign realm, he could sweep across the northern wilderness territory, rule the world from then on, and become the master of the northern wilderness territory. But I didn't expect it. A peerless evildoer like Yi Lingtian was born in the northern wasteland, and he was trampled under his feet. Facing the hopelessly strong Yi Lingtian, Patriarch Tianqian surrendered. If you don't surrender, you will really die. Ding! Congratulations to the master for conquering the Tianqian dynasty. One person has been added to the martial sovereign realm, 6 people have been added to the martial king realm, and 9,000 immortal dynasty points have been obtained. Yi Lingtian couldn't help but secretly clicked his tongue when he heard Loli Tongzi's prompt tone. This Tianqian dynasty is indeed the top dynasty in the northern wasteland, with as many as 6 martial kings. Including the one he killed in Hongye Ridge, that's a total of 7 people. Yi Lingtian checked the loyalty of the Tianqian ancestors and found that they were all around 60. Since the loyalty barely reached the passing level, Yi Lingtian did not go on a killing spree. He dismissed the small golden sword that was nailed between the eyebrows of Patriarch Tianqian and said calmly, "The Tianqian dynasty is still under the control of Duan Jingcan. Do you have any objections to following me to the Qingyan dynasty?" The sole figure of the Tianqian dynasty is the ancestor of Tianqian. As long as they control the ancestor of Tianqian, the Tianqian dynasty will not be able to make any waves at all. Everything follows the arrangements of Emperor Qingyan. Patriarch Tianqian naturally did not dare to have any objections and quickly bowed and answered. "In that case, let me go." After Yi Lingtian finished speaking, he turned around and walked away. Ancestor Tianqian saw this and quickly followed. Seeing Patriarch Tianqian following Yi Lingtian like an old servant, everyone was speechless for a long time. No one thought of it. The conferred sovereign ceremony of Tianqian Patriarch ended in this way before it even started. Especially Thunder King Lei Mu and Nanwu King Wuquan looked even more desperate. They are also waiting for the conferred sovereign, the ancestor of Tianqian, to establish the Tianqian dynasty, and then use the power of the Tianqian dynasty to avenge Yi Lingtian. Who would have thought that the ancestor of Tianqian who broke through the martial sovereign realm would be suppressed by Yi Lingtian? Even martial sovereign can be suppressed with one sword. Who else in the northern wasteland can compete with Yi Lingtian? Thunder King, what should we do now? Wu Quan, the king of southern Wu, looked extremely sad. They originally thought, after Patriarch Tianqian breaks through the martial sovereign realm, he should at least be able to compete with Yi Lingtian. But I didn't expect it. The ancestor of Tianqian was so useless that he was directly suppressed by Yi Lingtian's sword. Should have known so. It would be better to surrender directly to Yi Lingtian. Now, their situation has become more embarrassing. Let's go to the Great Wilderness Dynasty. A ferocious look flashed across Lei Mu's face. I don't believe that no one in this world can conquer Yi Lingtian. The Tianqian dynasty surrendered and was still a dynasty attached to the Qingyan dynasty. But the Jinglei dynasty was different from the southern Wu dynasty. Their previous generation of kings all fell at the hands of Yi Lingtian, and they had a deep hatred against Yi Lingtian. Even if they surrender, Yi Lingtian may not accept it easily. Even if they are accepted, they may not be able to rest assured that they will continue to control the Jinglei dynasty and the southern Wu dynasty and become the vassal kings of the Qingyan dynasty. At this point, the only choice is to give the Great Wilderness Dynasty a try. You go ahead, I won't go to the Great Wilderness Dynasty. King Shafeng of Eastern Sha shook his head and directly exited the 3-person group chat. The Eastern Sha dynasty originally followed the Tianqian dynasty. Now that the Zhen dynasty has surrendered, Sha Feng has no intention of messing around. Doesn't it matter who you hang out with? Not to mention, even the ancestor of Tianqian who broke through the martial sovereign realm was easily suppressed by Yiling Tian. Even if the Great Wilderness Dynasty really gave birth to martial sovereign, it would probably be a disaster. It's better to prepare the gifts honestly and attend Yiling Tian's conferred sovereign ceremony. Seeing Sha Feng withdraw, Lei Mu didn't say much. Just when he and Wu Quan were about to leave, they suddenly sensed something. He suddenly looked up and saw a burly man in black, striding towards Tianqian King City. Just the blink of an eye, the man in black appeared in the sky above Tianqian King City. This man in black looks to be in his early 30s. His face was stern, and his whole body exuded an unparalleled arrogance. Especially the pair of eyes looking down at the people below, as if they were looking at ants on the ground. Looking at the young man in black who suddenly appeared, Duan Jingcan's eyes suddenly froze. As a top-level martial king, he felt an unfathomable aura from this mysterious man in black. Tell him directly. This man in black is probably very extraordinary. Duan Jingcan took a deep breath, cupped his fists at the man in black and said, "This friend. Are you the person in charge here?" Before Duan Jingcan could finish speaking, the man in black interrupted Duan Jingcan's words without politeness, and his eyes were directly fixed on Duan Jingcan. "Yes, I am Duan Jingcan, the king of the Tianqian dynasty." Although Duan Jingcan felt a little unhappy, he still nodded. "From now on, I have the final say here. You should be okay with that, right?" The man in black looked at Duan Jingcan calmly, but his faint voice revealed an unquestionable meaning. As soon as the man in black said these words, the senior officials of the Tianqian dynasty were furious. Today Japan is the conferred sovereign ceremony of their Tianzan ancestor. As a result, the ancestor was easily suppressed by Yiling Tian and had to surrender. They are already aggrieved enough. Now a man in black appears and rides on their heads to run wild. How can they endure this? Their Tianqian dynasty has not fallen to the point where cats and dogs can ride on their heads and run wild, right? One of them, the blonde martial king, took a step forward and shouted angrily at the man in black, "Where did this madman come from? How dare you act so recklessly in our Tianqian dynasty? I think you are impatient with life, right? I'm talking to your master, why do you interrupt me?" The man in black gave the blonde martial king a cold look, then raised his hand and slapped him. Boom! The terrifying palm force instantly penetrated the space and fell directly on the body of the blonde martial king. Next moment, the blonde martial king didn't even have time to scream. His whole body exploded and turned into flesh and blood scattered all over the ground. This scene immediately plunged the square into a dead silence. Everyone looked at the man in black with unconcealable horror in their eyes. The majestic martial king was turned into a scumbag by a man in black. Where did this awesome guy come from? I said, from now on, I have the final say here. The man in black glanced at Duan Jingdiang and others, and said calmly, "Who else among you has any opinions?" ... There was dead silence in the square. Duan Jingcan came back to his senses and said with a somewhat unpleasant look on his face, "Are you being too overbearing?" The man in black was too lazy to answer. He pointed a finger directly at Duan Jingcan. Boom! A giant black finger 10 meters long in the void instantly condensed and crashed down on Duan Jingcan. Duan Jingcan half knelt on the ground with a pop, and a mouthful of blood spurted out from his mouth. "I'm so domineering, what can you do?" The man in black looked down at Duan Jingcan, like a god judging mortals. "You. Who are you?" Duan Jingcan's face was pale and frightened. "Martial sovereign. This man in black is also a martial sovereign." Just as Yiling Tian left, another domineering man in black suddenly appeared. Duan Jingcan couldn't understand. In the northern wasteland where the top-level martial king was originally the ceiling combat power, how come martial sovereigns suddenly became everywhere? "You are not qualified to know who I am." The man in black looked at Duan Jingcan indifferently. "As the king of a dynasty, you should know a lot about this mortal realm, right? Are there any powerful families named Yi in your place?" Hearing the words of the man in black, Duan Jingcan was shocked. This man in black is not from the northern wasteland. And the northern wilderness territory is also called the mortal territory. Could it be? Is this person from the legendary heavenly realm? The powerful men from the heavenly realm came to the northern wilderness territory, and it seemed that they were looking for the Yi family. Why is this guy looking for the Yi family? Sir, the most powerful Yi family in the northern wasteland is the Yi family who founded the Qingyan dynasty. Just when Duan Jingcan was stunned, Thunder King Lei Mu stood up directly and said respectfully to the man in black. Thunder King Lei Mu was excited. He originally planned to join the Great Wilderness Dynasty, but he did not expect that such a powerful martial sovereign suddenly appeared in front of him. And it is very likely that it comes from the legendary heaven. Such thighs. If you don't hug me now, when will you wait? Oh, the man in black's eyes immediately fell on Lei Mu. He then took out a portrait and asked calmly, is there anyone in the Yi family of the Qingyan dynasty who is in the portrait? Sir, the person in the portrait is Yi Qingyan, the previous king of the Qingyan dynasty. Lei Mu recognized him almost immediately. The man in the portrait is Yi Qingyan who founded the Qingyan dynasty. When the man in black heard this, his whole body instantly became murderous. Is this the mortal realm where that man lives? Finally he was found. The terrifying murderous intent emanating from the man in black made Lei Mu and others tremble with fear, and they did not even dare to make a sound. After a while, the man in black said coldly, which of you is willing to take me to the Qingyan dynasty? He originally planned to continue using the strategy he had used in the previous mortal realm to control the top forces in this mortal realm and let them find the family of the person in the portrait for him. But I didn't expect it. This time it turned out to be so smooth, and there was news as soon as I got here. Yi Qingyan. There is a powerful person in the clan who predicts that the Yi family in the mortal realm where this person was born will most likely bring disaster to the Zhang clan. Although he couldn't understand it. How could a small mortal domain family bring disaster to the Zhang clan? But what if it comes true? This Yi family must be destroyed as soon as possible. Sir, the Qingyan dynasty cannot be underestimated. Since the previous generation of King Qingyan Yi Qingyan disappeared, his son Yilingtian succeeded King Qingyan and is now a strong man in the martial sovereign realm. After our ancestors of the Tianqian dynasty broke through the martial sovereign realm, they were easily suppressed by him. Tomorrow, Yilingtian will hold the conferred sovereign ceremony and establish the Qingyan dynasty. In my opinion, this matter needs to be discussed in the long term. At this moment, Duan Jingcan spoke first. The man in black in front of him is not only a strong man from the heaven realm, but he also seems to have quite a grudge against the Qingyan dynasty. Duan Jingcan's mind also became active. From this man in black, he saw hope of making a comeback. Now the ancestor of Zen is beside Yilingtian today. As long as Patriarch Tianqian is notified secretly, then he can join forces with the man in black in front of him to deal with Yilingtian. The two martial sovereign realm experts, one bright and one dark, have a high chance of killing Yilingtian. As long as Yilingtian is eliminated and they have the martial sovereign, the ancestor of Tianqian, they can replace him and establish the Tianqian dynasty. Snort. This is just a mortal martial sovereign. I can destroy it with just a snap of my fingers. What's the long-term plan? Tomorrow's conferred sovereign ceremony is the anniversary of Yilingtian's death. The man in black snorted coldly, with a look of disdain. The Zhang family is the top force even in the Tianyu. As a genius of the Zhang family, even most of the martial sovereigns in the same realm in the heaven realm will be easily crushed by him, let alone the martial sovereigns in the mortal realm who are one level weaker. The Great Wilderness Dynasty. Huang Wufang stood in front of a man in blood-clothed clothes with a respectful expression. Your Majesty, I am afraid that no one will respond to the summons issued by the Great Wilderness Dynasty. Yilingtian and the ancestors of Tianqian later broke through the martial sovereign realm, and the influence of the Great Wilderness Dynasty in the Northern Wilderness Territory further declined. Huang Wufang had already expected that the summoning order would have little effect. Not so long ago, he received another message from the Tianqian dynasty. Yilingtian personally attended the conferred sovereign ceremony of Patriarch Tianqian, suppressed Patriarch Tianqian with one sword, and made the Tianqian dynasty surrender. As soon as this news came out, no one would respond to the Dawang dynasty's summons. Huang Wufang could already foresee it. After the Qingyan dynasty holds the conferred sovereign ceremony tomorrow, there will probably be only one voice in the entire northern wasteland besides their Great Wilderness Dynasty. That is the Qingyan dynasty. It doesn't matter. The man in blood-clothed clothes had a calm expression on his face, as if he didn't take this matter to heart at all. I will take you to the Qingyan dynasty tomorrow, kill Yiling Tian, and help you rebuild the Northern Wilderness dynasty. Qingyan dynasty, Wangcheng, outside Qingyan Hall. Wei Xian, Tuo Bazan and other senior officials of the Qingyan dynasty were already very busy. Because today is the day when the conferred sovereign ceremony is held. At this moment, outside the Qingyan Hall, heavyweights from all the major dynasties in the northern wasteland gathered. Martial kings gather together, and strong men are like clouds. While there was a lot of excitement outside the Qingyan Hall, Yiling Tian, who was sitting quietly inside the Qingyan Hall, had his brows knitted tightly together. After returning from Tianqian dynasty yesterday, Yiling Tian settled down with Yi Qinglei, and then was busy dealing with some things. He never paid much attention to the attribute panel of Immortal Dynasty mode. Just now, Yiling Tian suddenly checked on a whim. The results surprised him. The loyalty of everyone in the Tianqian dynasty, including the ancestor of Tianqian, has dropped off a cliff. Ancestor of Tianqian, elementary martial sovereign, loyalty 9. Duan Jingcan, top-level martial king, loyalty 9. Duan Jinggying, high-level martial king, loyalty 0. Everyone's loyalty does not exceed 10. Especially Duan Jinggying, it turned into 0. Not only that, there were originally 7 people in the Tianqian dynasty recorded in the records, but now there are only 6 people left, and 1 person has disappeared inexplicably. As long as it is recorded in the system, even people with 0 loyalty like Duan Jinggying cannot disappear. Unless the person dies, the loyalty of all members has declined, and a martial king has died. Something must have happened to the Tianqian dynasty. Yiling Tian glanced at the old god and ancestor Tianqian sitting beside him, but did not alert him. He wanted to see what tricks the Tianqian dynasty could play. Anyway, immortal dynasty points have been earned. If they don't have the consciousness to be tools, just kill them. Your Majesty, it's almost time to start the conferred sovereign ceremony. Just when Yiling Tian was paying attention to the loyalty of Patriarch Tianqian and others, Tuo Bazan suddenly walked in from outside the hall. Yiling Tian nodded and strode towards the outside of Qingyan Palace. Ancestor Tianqian and Tuo Bazan followed closely behind. Surrounded by people, under the gaze of everyone, Yiling Tian climbed onto the temporary high platform outside the Qingyan Hall and began the complicated conferred sovereign ceremony. After struggling for a while, Tuo Bazan, who was responsible for hosting the conferred sovereign ceremony, shouted loudly. The king of Qingyan, Yiling Tian, came to the martial sovereign realm at a young age, which is unprecedented. Today, he is titled Qingyan and becomes the king of Qingyan. Yiling Tian's powerful martial sovereign aura instantly enveloped the entire Qingyan city, and his faint voice resounded throughout the world. From today onwards, I am the Qingyan emperor. This moment, everyone outside the Qingyan hall was prostrate on the ground and worshipped Yiling Tian. Meet Emperor Qingyan. Yiling Tian restrained his martial sovereign aura and was about to speak, but he was keenly aware of something. He suddenly raised his head and looked towards the void outside King Qingyan City. Is it finally coming? Yiling Tian's eyes narrowed slightly, and his expression became extremely cold. Under Yiling Tian's gaze, in the distant sky, a violent energy fluctuation suddenly rippled. A black shadow stepped into the void, heading straight towards Qingyan King City with a monstrous aura. Just the blink of an eye, a black shadow appeared in the sky 100 meters high outside King Qingyan City. He stood with his hands behind his hands, his indifferent eyes locked directly on Yiling Tian, and his disdainful sneer instantly resounded throughout the world. Hehe, Qingyan Emperor, it sounds good. It's a pity, today's conferred sovereign ceremony will become your death anniversary next year. Disdainful sneers echoed endlessly over Qingyan King City. Everyone's eyes were invariably looking toward the 100-meter-high sky outside King Qingyan City. There, astonishingly, a man in black stood proudly. His whole body was filled with a powerful aura of martial sovereign, which was not inferior to the aura Yiling Tian exuded before. Martial sovereign. It's another martial sovereign. Everyone looked horrified and couldn't believe their eyes. To know, before Yiling Tian broke through the martial sovereign, only 2 martial sovereigns had been born in the northern wasteland in the past 10,000 years. Nowadays, martial sovereigns are springing up one after another. What exactly is going on? You are the person behind the Great Wilderness Dynasty, the messenger from the divine sect. Yi Lingtian's eyes narrowed slightly. The man in black in front of me is not only a martial sovereign, but he is far superior to the newly broken through elementary martial sovereigns like Patriarch Tianqian. In all likelihood, he is someone from the divine sect of Tianyu. Even the sudden defection of the Tianqian dynasty was probably related to this person. Quote ? At the VIP table, Huang Wufang looked confused. He couldn't help but look at the man in blood next to him, and asked in a low voice with a puzzled look on his face, "Your Majesty, what is going on here? Isn't the superior envoy of the Blood Fiend divine sect right next to me? Where did this man in black come from? He should also be from the heaven realm, but he is definitely not from the Blood Fiend divine sect." Looking at the man in black in midair, the man in blood couldn't help but frown slightly. Let's check the situation first. The northern wilderness territory is at the bottom of the mortal realm. The divine sect of the ordinary heaven realm may not be worthy of attention. Except for their Blood Fiend divine sect, no heavenly domain divine sect is interested in the northern wasteland. How could people from Tianyu appear in this place? Divine sect messenger. The man in black looked contemptuous. The Zhang clan, are not rubbish like the divine sect, and have no interest in mortal realms like you. Isn't this guy the divine sect messenger from the heaven realm? Yi Lingtian was stunned immediately. He glanced at the great desolation King Huang Wufang at the VIP table and the man in blood clothes beside him, and he couldn't help but feel shocked. If he is not the divine sect messenger from heaven, what is the origin of this man in black? Ginger clan. Next to Huang Wufang, the Blood Fiend divine sect admiral heard the words of the man in black, and an unconcealable panic suddenly appeared in his eyes. This man in black is actually from the Zhang clan. Ginger clan. The absolute hegemonic force in the Beidou heavenly domain. There are not only countless martial gods in the clan, but also more than one martial saint. In front of the Zhang clan, their Blood Fiend divine sect is almost no different from ants. He really couldn't understand. How come people from the Zhang clan appear in the small northern wilderness territory? Since your excellency comes from the great clan of Tianyu, what is the purpose of coming to the Qingyan dynasty? There doesn't seem to be any enmity between the Qingyan dynasty and your Zhang clan, right? Yi Lingtian looked up at the man in black, his brows knitting together tightly. Listen to the man in black. Not only does he come from the heavenly realm, but the force behind him is even more powerful than the divine sect. Before him, the Yi family only had one martial king, his father Yi Qingyan. How could he be related to the Tianyu Zhang clan? Yi Lingtian suddenly thought of the mysterious disappearance of his father Yi Qingyan, and his pupils shrank suddenly. Could it be? Is the mysterious disappearance of his father Yi Qingyan related to this Zhang clan? Hate is nothing. It's just that your Yi family is unhappy and wants to destroy it. Remember my name, your killer is Zhang Yang from the Beidou Tianyu Zhang clan. The man in black had just finished speaking proudly and pointed his finger at Yi Lingtian. Boom! The terrifying energy of heaven and earth instantly converged into a black sword energy that was about 10 feet long. With the domineering power that penetrated everything, it pointed directly at Yi Lingtian's eyebrows. Yi Lingtian also raised his hand and pointed out. A golden sword light collided with the black sword energy. Click! The golden sword light was as powerful as breaking bamboo, crushing the black sword energy in the blink of an eye, and shot towards the man in black with indestructible power. Looking at the scene in front of him, Zhang Yang's expression suddenly changed. Dozens of black sword energy intertwined an airtight sword net around his body, blocking the golden sword light that burst out. Bang! A huge energy explosion suddenly erupted in midair. Zhang Yang's body flew out instantly, and he stepped back more than 10 steps in the void before slowly regaining his balance. Want to kill me? I'm afraid you don't have the qualifications. Yi Lingtian rose into the sky step by step and came directly in front of Zhang Yang. He stared at Zhang Yang coldly. Is the reason why you came to the northern wilderness related to my father Yi Qingyan? Zhang Yang suppressed the turbulent breath in his body, looking shocked and angry. Although he is not the top genius of the Zhang clan, he is definitely the core disciple of the Zhang clan. He started practicing martial arts at the age of 8. Breakthrough martial king at the age of 23. Breakthrough martial sovereign at 45. Now less than 100 years old, he has the cultivation level of a high-level martial sovereign. For a martial sovereign with a lifespan of thousands of years, he is undoubtedly very young and is a genius who is very promising to break through to the martial god. With his talent and strength, even many top-level martial sovereigns in the heavenly realm can be easily suppressed by him. In the mortal realm, they are almost invincible under the martial god. Now he was repelled by Yiling Tian, the martial sovereign from the mortal realm. This is incredible. At this moment, Zhang Yang somewhat believed in the calculations of the powerful people in the clan. It is indeed not easy for the Yi family in the small mortal realm to produce a monster genius like Yiling Tian. Maybe it can really pose some threat to the Zhang clan. Zhang Yang suppressed the shock and anger in his heart, and the killing intent in his eyes became more and more intense. Yiling Tian and the Qingyan dynasty must be destroyed. Which divine sect are you from the Beidou Heavenly Territory? This northern wilderness territory is under your control, right? Zhang Yang's eyes glanced slightly and landed directly on the man in blood-clothed clothes beside Huang Wufang, and his faint voice resounded throughout the world. Help me immediately to kill Yiling Tian and destroy the Qingyan dynasty. I owe you a favor. Although Zhang Yang has a brave name, he is by no means the kind of fool who has no brains. Through the encounter just now, Zhang Yang already knew that Yiling Tian's strength was not inferior to his. Unless he uses his last trump card, it may be difficult for him alone to kill Yiling Tian. This man in blood clothes is obviously from the heaven realm. In all likelihood, he comes from the divine sect in charge of the northern wilderness realm, which can be used by him. The man in blood clothes was overjoyed. The Zhang clan of the Beidou Heavenly Territory can make the Beidou Heavenly Territory tremble 3 times just by stamping their feet. A favor from a young master of the Zhang clan. Even if they are the sect masters of the Blood Fiend Divine Sect, they will probably fight to the death. Blood Fiend Divine Sect Yang Wei is willing to lend a helping hand to Mr. Zhang. The man in blood-clothed clothes didn't hesitate at all, and turned into a streak of blood and soared into the sky, surrounding Yiling Tian in the center with Zhang Yang. Chapter 31. You think you can kill me by joining forces with this Blood Fiend Divine Sect trash? Yiling Tian didn't even bother to look at Yang Wei. This Blood Fiend Divine Sect messenger named Yang Wei, but the cultivation level of the primary martial sovereign is at best better than that of the ancestor of Tianchen. How could Yiling Tian take it to heart? Yiling Tian, don't be so arrogant in front of young Master Zhang. Yang Wei's face was ashen. After all, he also came from the divine sect of the heavenly realm. When did he come to the mortal realm and was he not worshipped as an ancestor? Now Yiling Tian actually regards him as trash. How could he not be angry? But, although Yang Wei was angry, he did not lose his mind. He had no intention of rushing to attack Yiling Tian. He just shouted slogans for Zhang Yang. He wanted to show off in front of Zhang Yang. Facing Yiling Tian was like facing his wife at night. The mind is full but the strength is not enough. Yang Wei knew how much he weighed. Yiling Tian had previously forced back Zhang Yang, who was showing off the strength of a high-level martial king, with one sword strike, almost scaring him to the point of peeing. He was still a little lucky in his heart. Fortunately, Zhang Yang, the young master of the Zhang family, appeared in time. If it weren't for Zhang Yang, he would go directly to show off in front of Yiling Tian, and the only result would be that he would be bad instead of showing off. If it weren't for Zhang Yang's favor, Yang Wei would never show up at this time. In this situation, let Zhang Yang take the lead. As for him, just get some help. Yiling Tian still ignored Yang Wei. He looked towards Patriarch Tianchen and said with a smile, Ancestor Tianchen, do you want to come too? Patriarch Tianchen was shocked. He didn't show anything strange at all. How did Yiling Tian see it? Originally, he had not planned to be exposed so early, and then secretly give Yiling Tian a fatal blow at the critical moment. Now that Yiling Tian has seen through it, there is no point in continuing to pretend. Old Chan Tianchen is willing to lend a helping hand to young Master Zhang. Before he finished speaking, Patriarch Tianchen instantly jumped into the air. Although Yiling Tian was powerful, he was only in the northern wasteland. Even the Blood Fiend Divine Sect behind Yang Wei is not something Yiling Tian can compete with. Not to mention the more powerful Zhang clan. This multiple choice question is not difficult for Patriarch Tianchen. Seeing that Yilingtian was besieged by the three major martial sovereigns in an instant, the expressions of Wei Xian and others became extremely gloomy. Although they had expected it. There will be changes in the conferred sovereign ceremony today, but I didn't expect it to be like this. 1 against 3. Can Yilingtian bear it? Facing the three major martial sovereigns joining forces, Yilingtian's expression remained unchanged. He looked at Zhang Yang, who seemed to be unprepared to take action, and raised his sword eyebrows slightly. Why, aren't you planning to take action yet? Not urgent. Zhang Yang smiled coldly, and his plain voice sounded again. Everyone in the Northern Wilderness Territory, listen, whoever is the first to enter the Qingyan Hall, I, Zhang Yang, will protect him and become the emperor who rules the Northern Wilderness Territory. Finished. Zhang Yang looked at Yang Wei. Yang Wei, you should have no objection, right? Yilingtian is very powerful. Even if there are two more martial sovereigns, Zhang Yang feels that it is not safe. Using people from the Northern Wilderness Territory to massacre Yilingtian's relatives and men, disrupting Yilingtian's mind, would allow Yilingtian to reveal more flaws in the subsequent battle. Master Zhang decides everything. Yang Wei naturally had no objection. The Zhang clan has no interest at all in low-end mortal realms such as the Northern Wilderness region. As long as the Northern Wasteland is under the control of the Blood Fiend Divine Sect, it doesn't matter who rules it. The conversation between Zhang Yang and Yang Wei immediately made many people's eyes become extremely hot. Lei Mu of the Thunder Dynasty is willing to help Mr. Zhang to overthrow the Qingyan Dynasty. Wu Quan of the Southern Wu Dynasty is willing to help Mr. Zhang to overthrow the Qingyan Dynasty. Just for a moment. Except for Hanfang Dynasty, Tianai Dynasty, and Dawang Dynasty, all the 9 dynasties responded to Zhang Yang's call. I've been living my whole life, now I'm going to take the gamble. Tuo Bahong of Hanfang Dynasty gritted his teeth. Although it seemed that Yilingtian had no chance of winning, after seeing all the miracles that Yilingtian had created, there seemed to be a voice in Tuo Bahong's heart reminding him to keep pressing. He decided to gamble. The Tianai dynasty originally only had one martial king, Hai Qinghu. After Hai Qinghu's death, he was completely controlled by the Qingyan dynasty. As for Huang Wufang of the Great Wild Dynasty, his face was gloomy, and no one knew what he was thinking. Kill. The 6 dynasties gathered a dozen martial king realm experts and rushed towards the Qingyan Hall to kill them. Thunder King Lei Mu took the lead and rushed to the front. Tuo Bahong saw that there was no martial king realm expert on their side, and was about to take action to block the attack, but Tuo Bazan took action one step ahead of him. Anyone who breaks into Qingyan Hall without authorization will die. Before Tuo Bazan finished speaking, he held the brush and drew it in the air, writing a golden word. Next moment, the golden word turned into a golden light and swept out towards Thunder King Lei Mu. Before Thunder King Lei Mu could react, his entire body was cut into 2 pieces by a word written by Tuo Bazan. Immediately afterwards, Tuo Bazan made another vertical stroke towards Wu Quan, the king of Southern Wu, and Wu Quan, the king of Southern Wu, was instantly split in half. Hiss. Looking at the shocking scene in front of him, Tuo Bahong took a deep breath and was so shocked that his eyes almost popped out. I'm in a trough. Is this really Tuo Bazan, the once ordinary 3rd prince of Hanfang Dynasty? He knows it very well. The last time Tuo Bazan left with Yilingtian, he was just a martial apprentice. Why did he suddenly become so powerful after hanging out with Yilingtian for a few days? Although Thunder King Lei Mu and Southern Wu King Wu Quan only have the cultivation level of the elementary martial king, they are still martial kings. One stroke at a time martial king. Is it so outrageous? Tuo Bahong was shocked, but also excited. Yilingtian is a completely evil and abnormal freak. Even the people around him will become abnormal. Tuo Bahong felt more and more. It seems he made the right bet this time. Tuo Bazan killed 2 martial kings with 2 simple strokes, instantly frightening all the martial kings in the field. Even though Tianqian King Lei was frightened, his pupils couldn't help but shrink suddenly. This kid doesn't seem to have any martial Dao cultivation at all, but he can control such strange power. You have the power to kill the martial king with just 1 stroke. Outrageous. Duan Jingcan looked at the little girl next to Tuo Bazan again. This person is most likely the legendary 8-year-old martial king. Mud. It's just that Yilingtian is a monster himself. Why are the people around him so abnormal? Don't be scared by him. He killed 2 martial kings one after another, and his complexion has become much pale. He is already a strong person but a weak person. There are many of us, let's all come together. I don't know who shouted something, and the remaining 10 or so martial kings became ready to move again. But, although everyone is eager to try, they are not fools, and no one wants to be the first to take the lead. After all, they clearly remembered the fate of Lei Mu and Wu Quan. Let's all take action together and kill them. Seeing that no one took action, Duan Jing had no choice but to stand up at this time. His eyes were ferocious, and the aura of the top-level martial king was also exuded at this moment without reservation. Others may have a way out, but the Tianqian dynasty does not. From the moment they chose to betray Yi Lingtian, they were destined to fight Yi Lingtian until death. If they cannot kill Yi Lingtian and destroy the Qingyan dynasty today, there may be no place for them in the northern wasteland. At this point, they have no choice but to fight hard. Under the leadership of Duan Jingcan, many martial kings also took action. The powerful offensive of more than 10 martial kings was earth-shattering. Even Tuo Bahong, the top-level martial king, could not help but change his face suddenly. Although Tuo Bazan is now completely reborn, the power he exerts is obviously very huge. The previous killing of 2 martial kings was already too much, and he was unable to withstand the siege of Duan Jingcan and others. Just when Tuo Bahong was about to take action, a young figure jumped out from him first. Immediately, the energy of the heaven and earth with a radius of 100 feet suddenly became restless, and finally turned into a huge moon shadow in midair. Countless silver sword energy poured down from the moon shadow like a waterfall, covering all the martial kings headed by Duan Jingcan. Boo-hoo-hoo. Waves of silver sword energy poured down, unstoppable. Before some of the weaker martial kings could react, they were smashed into sieves by the pouring sword energy, and their flesh and blood became a blur. All of a sudden, the screams were endless. Wait until all the silver sword energy falls. Among the many martial kings of the 6 dynasties, only the 2 top-level martial kings, Duan Jingcan and Master Yiyang, are still alive. Although the 2 of them barely survived, they were also in a depressed state. Almost no part of their bodies was intact, and they only had half of their lives left. They looked at the young figure standing proudly in front of them, their faces extremely frightened. A dozen martial kings were defeated with just one move by the little girl in front of them. No, this can no longer be described as a defeat, it is simply a one-sided massacre. Killing the martial king is like slaughtering a chicken but a dog. This is definitely something only a strong person in the martial sovereign realm can do. Martial sovereign, how is that possible? Tuo Bahong's eyes were dull and his whole body was numb with shock. Although Tuo Bahong also knew that there was a very evil little girl beside Yi Lingtian. In the battle at Shijiangwan, he instantly killed the top-level martial artist from the venerable realm with one move, showing the powerful strength of the martial king realm. But he didn't expect it anyway. This little girl is so terrifying. One move almost wiped out the martial king group of the 6 dynasties. Tuo Bahong originally thought that Yi Lingtian, a 20-year-old martial sovereign, was already outrageous. Who knew this little girl was even more outrageous? 8-year-old martial sovereign. This simply overturned Tuo Bahong's understanding of martial Dao. Mid-air, Zhang Yang and the other 3 were also severely shocked by the scene in front of them. Especially Zhang Yang. He stared intently at Yu Wushuang below, and an unprecedented shock finally appeared in his eyes. The talents of Yi Lingtian and Tuo Bazan were enough for him to take seriously. The talent displayed by Yu Wushuang frightened him a little. That's right, just fear. As a member of the Zhang clan in the Beidou Heavenly Territory, Zhang Yang has seen so many geniuses. For example, they are the Zhang clan. There are countless saint-grade geniuses. There is even a rare emperor-grade genius. But even the emperor-grade genius, under the efforts of the Zhang clan to cultivate, did not break through to the martial sovereign realm until he was 16 years old. 8-year-old martial sovereign. No one knows what this means better than Zhang Yang. This moment, Zhang Yang no longer has any doubts about the calculation of the powerful people in the clan. The Yi family and the Qingyan dynasty must be eradicated as soon as possible. Otherwise, once Yi Lingtian and the Qingyan dynasty grow up, I am afraid it will really bring disaster to the Zhang family. Yang Wei, Tian Chan, go kill that little girl. Zhang Yang was filled with murderous intent. At this moment, in Zhang Yang's heart, Yu Wushwang has long been on his must-kill list, even ranked higher than Yiling Tian. A monster who surpasses the genius of emperor grade. Once he grew up, Zhang Yang's scalp felt numb just thinking about it. Yang Wei and Tian Chan looked at each other, and then both attacked Yu Wushwang. Yiling Tian frowned slightly when he saw this, and his immortal sword intent suddenly condensed. Yiling Tian, your opponent is me. Zhang Yang obviously did not intend to give Yiling Tian a chance to stop Yang Wei and the two of them, so he directly used a long black sword that exuded a sinister aura. Boom! The dazzling sword light was like a rainbow piercing the sun, slashing straight towards Yiling Tian with terrifying power that broke through the space. Yiling Tian had a thought. The immortal sword intent condensed in the sky above his head was struck directly with one sword. Click! The bright sword light and the surrounding space seemed to be shattered into nothingness by this sword. Zhang Yang's figure retreated again and again, his expression extremely ugly. Not only has Yiling Tian's cultivation reached the top level of martial sovereign, the power he exerts also has a hint of martial god's will. The top-level martial sovereign's cultivation. Before entering the realm of martial god, you can comprehend the meaning of martial god. Even their Zhang clan only has one person in the world. Not to mention his high-level martial sovereign, even if we look at the entire Beidou heavenly territory, there are probably only a handful of people who can rival Yiling Tian at the same level. Zhang Yang suppressed the fear in his heart. He glanced at the battlefield where Yang Wei and the others were, and found that the little girl's combat power was also ridiculously powerful. Although it was only the entry-level martial sovereign, it was not at all inferior when fighting 1 against 2, and even suppressed Yang Wei and Patriarch Tianqian to death. I'm afraid it won't take long. Yang Wei and Patriarch Tianqian would both fall into the hands of that little girl. This can't go on like this any longer. Zhang Yang raised his head and stared at Yiling Tian, his expression looking extremely ferocious. Yiling Tian, no matter how evil you are destined to die today. Senran's voice fell. Zhang Yang moved his palm, and a simple jade talisman appeared out of thin air. Without any hesitation, he crushed the jade talisman decisively. Boom! A terrifying aura that overwhelms the world, at the moment the jade talisman is broken, rises into the sky like a giant dragon resurrecting, and instantly fills the entire Qingyan King city. Next moment, an old man in purple robe with an illusory figure was seen condensing directly above Zhang Yang's head. The old man looked indifferent, and his whole body exuded an extremely terrifying aura. Especially those illusory eyes, which are extremely deep. Even if they look at each other in an ordinary martial sovereign state, there seems to be a feeling of constant trembling in the soul. Father, I have found the prophesied Yi family in the mortal realm. Please help me to kill this son. Zhang Yang raised his head and looked at the purple-robed shadow with a very respectful expression. The purple-robed shadow is none other than Zhang Yang's father, Zhang Yanwu, a martial god realm elder of the Zhang family. Martial god clone. This is also Zhang Yang's biggest life-saving trump card. Now in order to kill Yiling Tian and others, Zhang Yang had to use this trump card. Oh, when Zhang Yanwu heard this, his somewhat surprised eyes fell directly on Yiling Tian. Zhang Yanwu still knows his son Zhang Yang very well. Although his martial Dao talent is not at the top level among the Zhang clan, it is still at an upper level. With Zhang Yang's cultivation as a high-level martial sovereign, ordinary top-level martial sovereigns may not be his opponents, and they are almost invincible in the mortal realm. Now Zhang Yang is forced to use his martial god clone, which is really surprising. Zhang Yanwu glanced at Yiling Tian. Although it seemed plain and nothing special, Yiling Tian really felt the horror of this glance. Just one glance made Yiling Tian feel as if he was in thunder purgatory. In the realm of martial god, master the will of martial god and condense the will of martial god. Even just a thought can easily suppress the martial sovereign. This is the difference between mortals and gods. Yiling Tian's heart trembled, and the immortal sword intention was instantly activated to the extreme, and he resisted the suppressing will of martial god. What a domineering sword spirit! Zhang Yanwu narrowed his eyes slightly. The martial sovereign realm comprehends a kind of martial intention, which is known as the half-step martial god realm. If you are cultivating a god-level skill, you only need to condense the will of martial god in the last step to become a true martial god. Not only has this son's cultivation reached the top level of martial sovereign, but his sword intention is also extremely domineering. Such talent, even if they are from the Zhang clan, not many people can compare with them. No wonder Zhang Yang is no match. Not to mention Zhang Yang, even the ordinary junior martial god in the clan may not be able to suppress this son easily. I didn't expect that such a monster could be born in a mere mortal realm. It seems that the calculations made by the saints in the clan are not alarmist. Boy, it's rare for you to reach half-step to the martial god realm at your age. It's a pity, since you are the one in the prophecy, I can't keep you. Zhang Yanwu looked down at Yilingtian indifferently, like a god judging mortals, and the terrifying will of the martial god swept over him instantly. That moment, all the creatures within a 10-mile radius could not help but tremble. Except for Yilingtian and Yu Wushwang. Even martial sovereigns such as Yang Wei and Patriarch Tianqian were suppressed by the terrifying will of martial god and were forced to crawl on the ground, unable to move at all. But, although they were suppressed, their hearts were filled with excitement. If the martial god of the Zhang family takes action, Yilingtian will definitely die today. As for the Qingyan dynasty, Wei Xian and others looked desperate. Martial god. This is simply too powerful. Even if it's just a martial god clone, it's still so powerful that it makes people despair. Stop struggling pointlessly. No matter how evil you are, you will definitely die today. Looking at Yilingtian, who was still struggling to support himself, Zhang Yanwu's eyes surged with murderous intent. Just when he was about to take action to completely eliminate Yilingtian, a burst of green sword intent bloomed from Yilingtian's body like a lotus flower in full bloom. Boom! Zhang Yanwu's martial god will that suppressed everything collapsed under the impact of the blue sword intent. And Zhang Yanwu's body flew more than 10 feet upside down in the void in an instant. His originally illusory body became even more illusory at this moment. Who are you? Zhang Yanwu looked horrified. At this moment, the power Yilingtian possesses seems to be far superior to that of martial god. Martial saint. How could this guy who was born in the mortal realm be related to a powerful person in the martial saint realm? Martial god, isn't it amazing? Don't say you are just a clone. Even if your body is here, I will still kill you with one sword. Yilingtian's eyes were like swords, and he stared at Zhang Yanwu coldly, his proud voice resounding throughout the world. This Zhang Yanwu is not only a martial god, but also not an ordinary martial god. Even if he possesses the immortal sword intent, it is difficult for him to compete with him with his cultivation in the martial sovereign realm. Therefore, Yilingtian directly consumed 13,000 immortal dynasty points, exchanged them for universal excellent level fragment cards, and synthesized the excellent level Yi Qinglian. The scene that happened suddenly in midair also made it impossible for everyone to recover for a while. No one could have imagined it. Yilingtian, who was already in a desperate situation, suddenly exploded and knocked away a martial god. Even though it is just a clone of martial god, it is still very awesome. Could it be their emperor? Is he calling his ancestors again? Since Yilingtian succeeded to the throne, the Qingyan dynasty, which originally had no foundation, had ancestors one after another, and each one was more powerful than the last. Every time, it helps Yilingtian turn the tide. Although they didn't know where Yilingtian deceived so many ancestors, they didn't have any problem with giving them a dozen such ancestors. Wei Xian and others were so excited that they couldn't help but shout loudly. Emperor Qingyan, invincible. Emperor Qingyan, invincible. Quote. Zhang Yang, leave this place immediately and run away. Zhang Yanwu suppressed the panic in his heart, roared at Zhang Yang, and rushed directly towards Yilingtian. Immediately, a violent force rippled out from Zhang Yanwu's body, causing his illusory body to continue to expand. Martial saint. Even if his body is here, he can't compete with it at all. Now the only option is to blow up his clone and gain a chance for his son to escape. Zhang Yang was already frightened out of his wits at this moment. It didn't occur to him anyway. There was such a terrifying existence hidden in Yilingtian's body. Even his father had to self-destruct his martial god clone in order to give him a chance to escape. Zhang Yang didn't dare to hesitate at all. He quickly turned into a stream of light and ran away into the distance like crazy. Below, Yang Wei and Patriarch Tianqian were equally terrified and desperately fled from Qingyan King City. Yi Lingtian's face was expressionless. He just flicked his finger. Call out. A ray of green sword light instantly illuminated the entire Qingyan King city. Next moment, whether it was Zhang Yanwu who self-destructed his martial god clone, or Zhang Yang and the others who fled in a hurry, their bodies changed from extremely fast to still. Above their heads, there is a lotus mark that exudes a faint green light. Before Zhang Yang and the others could react, they were strangled into a ball of blood mist by the terrifying sword energy emanating from the lotus mark. Only Zhang Yanwu, whose figure gradually became transparent and dimmed. His elusive eyes were fixed on the blue lotus mark above his head. After a while, he finally thought of something. His expression suddenly became extremely frightened, and he let out an unbelievable scream. Green Lotus Sword Seal. You are the legendary Qinglian Sword Immortal. How is that possible? Qinglian Sword Fairy Yi Qinglian. A peerless swordsman who surpassed the martial emperor. Xuanwang Great World was once invincible, a legendary figure of an era. Using a 3-foot green lotus as a sword, he suppressed countless powerful men of the same generation. The Qinglian Sword Seal is also one of Qinglian Sword Immortal Yi Qinglian's most representative stunts that made her famous. Zhang Yanwu didn't expect it anyway. Yi Lingtian actually has the power left by the Qinglian Sword Immortal Yi Qinglian. Could it be? This Yi Lingtian is the successor chosen by the Qinglian Sword Immortal Yi Qinglian. Think of this. Zhang Yanwu was extremely frightened. He suddenly had a premonition. If the Zhang clan continues to target Yi Lingtian, the prediction made by the saint in the clan will most likely come true. The Zhang clan will really suffer a disaster. Only Zhang Yang has now fallen. Although his body can sense the death of his clone, it is impossible to know what exactly happened. No one can bring this news back to the Zhang clan. For that prophecy, the Zhang clan will continue to fight, sending more strong men to deal with Yi Lingtian, and step by step towards the abyss. Yi Lingtian. Zhang Yanwu looked panicked. He deliberately wanted to say something, but before he was halfway through, his body, which was already extremely illusory, completely turned into nothingness under the seal of the green lotus sword. After Zhang Yanwu's clone completely disappeared, Yi Lingtian looked down at the entire Qingyan city, his faint voice resounding throughout the world. From today onwards, the Qingyan dynasty will be the supreme authority in the northern wasteland. Does anyone else have any objections? Tuo Bahong from Hanfang dynasty was the first to kneel before Yi Lingtian. Tuo Bahong of the Hanfang dynasty paid homage to the Qingyan emperor, and has since surrendered to the Qingyan dynasty. He is willing to respect the Qingyan dynasty. Higher of the Tianai dynasty paid homage to Emperor Qingyan, and has since surrendered to the Qingyan dynasty. He is willing to respect the Qingyan dynasty. The remaining representatives of the major dynasties all prostrate themselves on the ground and quickly expressed their submission. Yi Lingtian floated down from the void and landed directly in front of Tuo Bazan and others. Your Majesty, Huang Wufang and others from the Great Wild Dynasty took advantage of the previous battle to evacuate. Do you want to pursue them? Tuo Bazan asked quickly. When Yi Lingtian heard this, his powerful spiritual consciousness spread quickly, covering the entire northern region in an instant, but no trace of Huang Wufang and others was found. I do look down upon the great wilderness king. Yi Lingtian was shocked, not to mention that it is difficult for those who are not in the martial sovereign realm to cross the boundary between domains. Even if Huang Wufang had some means to cross domains, it would be impossible for him to escape from the northern wasteland in such a short time. And Yi Lingtian still has the power of the outstanding Yi Qinglian. Huang Wufang was able to disappear inexplicably under his eyes, so he was quite capable. But Yi Lingtian didn't pay too much attention. After using the character card of the excellent Yi Qinglian, the cultivation level returned as at least enough for him to break through to the martial god realm. If Huang Wufang dares to do anything wrong, just kill him. Yi Lingtian shook his head and was about to withdraw his consciousness when he felt a violent energy fluctuation in the southernmost part of the northern wasteland. Immediately, a ray of cyan light came across the realm. In the cyan light, there is a young man holding a cyan sword. The boy was about 15 or 16 years old, with a delicate face and a thin body. He looked like a powerless nerd. But the aura emanating from his body has actually reached the martial king realm. Only, the boy's condition seemed a little bad. His delicate face looked extremely pale, the green robe on his body was already in tatters, and he looked extremely embarrassed. Phew, phew. Just as Yi Lingtian was sizing up the boy, another black light came across the realm and turned into a black-robed figure. As soon as the black-robed figure appeared, the powerful martial sovereign aura directly locked onto the green-robed boy. Yi Lin, stop struggling pointlessly and just surrender. You can't escape. The boy said nothing. He suppressed the injuries in his body and used all his strength to activate the cyan sword in his hand. Boom! A green sword energy was like a lotus blooming, and it suddenly slashed straight towards the black-robed figure. This is Qinglian's sword technique. Feeling the cyan sword energy displayed by the young man, a look of surprise flashed across Yi Lingtian's eyes. Using the excellent Yi Qinglian character card, Yi Lingtian is equivalent to having all the power of Yi Qinglian's Emperor Realm era. The moment when a boy crosses the border, Yi Lingtian felt a familiar aura from his body. Now that he saw the young man using the green lotus sword technique, Yi Lingtian suddenly understood. This young man is probably related to Qinglian sword immortal Yi Qinglian. Ding! The peerless physique immortal dynasty sword body has been detected. If you conquer the immortal dynasty sword body, you can get 10,000 immortal dynasty points. At this moment, Loli Tongzi's notification sound also sounded in Yi Lingtian's mind. Yi Lingtian was slightly startled. This young man is not only related to the Qinglian sword immortal Yi Qinglian, but he also has a peerless physique. That being the case, it was impossible for him to sit idly by and ignore the situation, both emotionally and rationally. Yi Lingtian immediately said a few words to Tuobazan and others, and then disappeared out of thin air. Northern wilderness, southern border. The figure in black robe looked at the young man in green who was slashing with a sword, with contempt and disdain on his face. Yi Lin, if you are in the same realm, few people in the mortal realm can compete with you, but if you want to fight against the martial sovereign at the martial king realm, you are simply overestimating your capabilities. The black-robed figure finished speaking and raised his hand. Boom! A black beam of light slammed into the cyan sword energy, instantly causing the cyan sword energy to shatter inch by inch, turning into dots of green light and dissipating. Immediately, the black-robed figure stretched out his hand, and a huge black claw suddenly condensed above Yi Lin's head. With the power of confining the space, it grabbed Yi Lin below. Looking at the huge black claws that are constantly enlarging in the pupils, a look of determination suddenly appeared on Yi Lin's delicate face. Just when he was about to fight desperately, the giant black claw trembled suddenly, and then shattered in midair without any warning. Yi Lin was stunned. The expression of the black-robed figure on the other side suddenly changed. Next moment, the figure in black robe seemed to sense something, and his eyes couldn't help but glance towards a place in the void. There, astonishingly, there was a young man in golden robe standing there proudly. The young man in golden robe is Yi Lingtian, who came across the sky with the help of the character card. Who are you, Your Excellency? The black-robed figure felt a slight shiver in his heart. It was obviously not easy for this young man in golden robe to appear here without him noticing and easily crush his previous attack. You come to my territory to run wild, and you have the nerve to ask me who I am. Yi Lingtian stood with his hands behind his back, looking down at the figure in black robes from a high position. His calm tone seemed unquestionable. From now on, this boy is mine. Wherever you come from, go back. This guy actually said that the northern wasteland is his territory. The black-robed figure was shocked. As far as he knew, the northern wilderness territory had been a situation where 10 major dynasties coexisted since the northern wilderness dynasty fell apart. Could it be a new dynasty has been born in the northern wasteland to rule the northern wasteland? This friend, I am Dugu Nian, the Dugu dynasty of Qingye domain, and I hope that you can give my Dugu dynasty a face and not interfere in this matter. Dugu Nian hugged Yi Lingtian. Yi Lin is a peerless evildoer that the Qingye sword sect has never encountered in 1,000 years, and the Dugu dynasty must get rid of him. If you cut the grass without removing the root, there will be endless troubles. Yi Lingtian looked at Dugu Nian expressionlessly. You can't understand people. I say for the last time, this boy is mine. Get out of the northern wasteland within 3 breaths, or else, die. Seeing that the young man in gold robe didn't give any face to him, Dugu Nian's face instantly darkened. Although Qingye domain and Beiwang domain are both mortal domains, but in terms of strength, Qingye territory is far superior to Northern Wilderness territory. Qingye domain not only has a powerful Qingye sword sect, but also has 3 major dynasties. Their Dugu dynasty ranked first among the 3 major dynasties. With the fall of Qingye sword sect, the Dugu dynasty is the undisputed number 1 force in the Qingye region. Even if a new dynasty appeared in the northern wasteland, it would still be far from being comparable to the Dugu dynasty. For him to be so polite is enough to give him face. Who knew this young man in golden robe was so arrogant? Do you really think that Dugu Nyen is easy to bully? Boy, no one can interfere with the affairs of my Dugu dynasty. Since you insist on seeking death, I will help you. Dugu Nyen stared at Yi Lingtian with cold eyes, and the power of the martial sovereign realm was overwhelming and pressing towards Yi Lingtian. The time for 3 breaths has arrived. Yi Lingtian's face was expressionless, and he raised his hand and pointed in the air. Boom! The space where Dugu Nyen was suddenly solidified, leaving only a green sword finger shooting towards him. No matter how hard Dugu Nyen struggled, he couldn't even move his fingers. No! Dugu Nyen's face instantly turned pale, with a look of despair and fear. Only, as soon as the word, "no," came out of his mouth, the green sword finger pierced his body. The terrifying sword energy instantly crushed his body into nothingness. So strong. Young Yi Lin was stunned. Dugu Nyen is a powerful person in the martial sovereign realm of the Dugu dynasty. Now he was killed by the golden-robed young man in front of him with a snap of his fingers. Yi Lin, Qingye sword sect of Qingye domain, thank you for your help, senior. Yi Lin came back to his senses and quickly thanked Yi Lingtian. You are welcome, Yi Lingtian said calmly. You were born with the body of a swordsman and have extraordinary qualifications. You have some connection with me. Are you willing to become my teacher? Yi Lin hesitated for a moment and said, Senior, there is no sworn relationship between me and the Dugu dynasty. The Dugu dynasty is the head of the 3 major dynasties in the Qingye region and is very powerful. It doesn't matter, as long as you are willing. Yi Lingtian's face was calm, and he didn't take Dugu dynasty to heart at all. Disciple Yi Lin, pay your respects to the master. Yi Lin was overjoyed and quickly paid homage to Yi Lingtian. After the Qingye sword sect was destroyed, he was hunted down by the Dugu dynasty. Seeing that he was about to fall into a desperate situation, he unexpectedly survived. The golden-robed young man in front of me can kill a strong man in the martial sovereign realm with just a snap of his fingers. Extremely powerful. If he could become his master, he might have hope of revenge. Ding! Congratulations to the master for conquering the peerless immortal body and immortal sword body, and gaining 10,000 immortal dynasty points. Hearing the notification sound from lowly Tongzi, Yi Lingtian couldn't help but raise the corner of his mouth slightly. With these 10,000 immortal dynasty points, he doesn't have much difference in immortal dynasty points, and can synthesize a new excellent character card. Get up! Yi Lingtian raised his hand and took Yi Lin directly back to Qingyan King City across the sky. And when Yi Lingtian returned to the Qingyan dynasty, the power of character cards is also gone. Ding! The master uses the excellent Yi Qinglian character card to finish, and a large amount of the character card's cultivation will be returned. Ding! Congratulations to the owner for getting a chance to draw a random item related to this character. A familiar sound sounded. Yi Lingtian's cultivation level began to soar again, and he quickly gathered the will of Martial God and reached the first level of Martial God. But, after reaching the mid-level Martial God, this explosive growth stalled. Obviously, after reaching the Martial God realm, the cultivation level returned by the excellent character card is no longer as outrageous as it was at the beginning. The cultivation he returned this time only allowed him to break through from the top-level Martial Sovereign to the middle-level Martial God. Next, Yi Lingtian started the lottery. Ding! Congratulations to the master for obtaining the Green Lotus Sword Domain. Qinglian Sword Domain, one of the famous stunts of Qinglian Sword Immortal Yi Qinglian. It's also a good reward. The cultivation level of the intermediate Martial God, coupled with the 2 major killer weapons of Immortal Sword Intention and Qinglian Sword Domain. Under the Martial Saint, Yi Lingtian is invincible. White Emperor City, one of the 3 famous Great Emperor cities in Beidou Tianyu. The owner of this imperial city is none other than the top power in the Beidou realm, the Zhang clan. Zhang Bai, the ancestor of the Zhang clan, was a powerful emperor realm warrior who was once invincible in the Beidou realm. He was revered as the White Emperor. And the Zhang clan, that is, the Emperor clan, one of the few in the Beidou territory. Descendants of the Emperor clan. Just these 4 words are enough for the Zhang clan to stand at the top of the Beidou heavenly domain. White Emperor City Center. Zhang clan Imperial Palace. In a side hall that didn't look very impressive, there was an old man in purple robe sitting cross-legged in the center of the hall. If Yi Lingtian appeared here at this moment, he would definitely recognize the identity of the purple-robed old man at a glance. Zhang Yang's father, the elder of the Zhang family's martial god realm, Zhang Yanwu. Suddenly, Zhang Yanwu, who had been meditating with his eyes closed, seemed to sense something, and his closed eyes suddenly opened. How can it be? Something happened to the clone I left for Zhang Yang. Zhang Yanwu's eyes also flashed with a look of horror that was difficult to conceal. Months ago, ever since the Supreme Elder of the Zhang clan deduced a prophecy, the Zhang clan has sent more than one person to the mortal realm in an attempt to destroy the Yi family in the mortal realm in advance, which could bring disaster to the Zhang clan. His son Zhang Yang is one of them. Zhang Yanwu originally thought, with Zhang Yang's cultivation as a high-level martial king and one of his clones, there would be no threat at all in the mortal realm where the martial god could not leave. But I didn't expect it. His clone was actually destroyed. The clone was destroyed. This means that there is a high probability that something will happen to Zhang Yang. What shocked Zhang Yanwu the most was, there was an existence in the mortal realm that could kill his clone. Could it be, the Yi family in the mortal realm in the prophecy has appeared? Zhang Yanwu's eyes were gloomy, and a fierce murderous intent instantly spread from his body. Kill his son and destroy his clone. No matter who it is, he will definitely make the other party pay a heavy price. If it is really what the Yi family in the mortal realm did. He just happened to destroy them all. Zhang Yanwu stood up slowly, and disappeared into the hall like a ghost in a flash. The Great Wilderness Dynasty. The deepest part of the ancestral land. A mysterious place completely isolated from the outside world. 2 Taoist figures stood here quietly. The 2 Taoist figures were none other than Huang Wufang, the king of wilderness, and the elder Zhang who had been following Huang Wufang. Originally, after the messenger of the blood fiend divine sect arrived in the northern wilderness territory, Huang Wufang thought that he could finally regain the glory of the northern wilderness dynasty and become the ruler of the northern wilderness territory. But I didn't expect it. After the mysterious man named Zhang appeared, just one word influenced the decision of the blood fiend divine sect messenger. That moment, only then did Huang Wufang realize that in the eyes of blood fiend divine sect, he was probably not even as good as a dog. As long as the blood fiend divine sect is willing, he can be abandoned at any time. Huang Wufang left decisively. He doesn't want to be someone else's pawn anymore. He wants to keep his destiny firmly in his own hands. Then, he came to the ancestral land of the Great Wilderness Dynasty and the former ancestral land of the Northern Wilderness Dynasty. At this place, it hides a shocking secret that only the direct descendants of their Huang family know. Your Majesty, although that place has great opportunities, it is also a narrow escape. Have you really decided? Looking at the black hole-like entrance in front of him, Elder Zhang looked extremely solemn. The entrance to the cave is dark and deep, with a diameter of more than 10 feet, and there are ancient mysterious runes faintly flowing on it. These runes seem to contain some mysterious power, dividing the inside and outside of the cave into 2 different worlds. This is a sealed world that can be entered but not exited. When the Northern Wilderness Emperor discovered this place, he built his ancestral land here and hid this sealed world in his ancestral land. For thousands of years, the Northern Wilderness Emperor has been trying to send people to explore the secrets of this sealed world. However, almost no one who enters this sealed world can come out alive. Decades ago, the Emperor of the Northern Wilderness, whose lifespan was running low, finally decided to explore the sealed world himself to gain a chance of survival for himself. The Northern Wilderness Emperor successfully came out alive. And he also brought out a mysterious elixir and several mysterious jade talismans. With that mysterious elixir, the Northern Wasteland Emperor's cultivation level skyrocketed in a very short period of time, and he soon reached the top level of martial sovereign. But just when he was about to break through the martial god realm, he suddenly suffered a backlash and his strength was reduced to 10%. That's why Tianqi's sect had the opportunity to take advantage of it and kill the Beiwang emperor who suffered backlash, causing the Beiwang dynasty to fall apart. In addition to the elixir taken by the Northern Wilderness Emperor, the remaining jade talismans are also extremely extraordinary. No matter where you are, as long as a jade talisman is activated, you can be directly transported to the entrance of the sealed world. Huang Wufang, who was originally in Qingyan King City, activated a mysterious jade talisman and returned here directly. Mr. Zong, I want to take a gamble. I would rather die in this unknown world than have my fate in the hands of others. A crazy look flashed across Huang Wufang's eyes. Ha ha. If you don't let your fate be in the hands of others, I will accompany the king to go crazy for a while. Your Majesty, I have taken the first step to clear the way for you. Zong Laohao laughed angrily, and disappeared into the deep black hole in front of him in a flash. Huang Wufang also had a firm gaze and stepped into it resolutely. Qingyan Palace. Yi Lingtian was lying on the hammock in the Imperial Garden, looking at the attribute panel of Immortal Dynasty Mode. Immortal Dynasty Mode, Qingyan Dynasty. Monarch, Yi Lingtian. Dynasty Strength, Martial Sovereign 2nd, Martial King 7th. Immortal Dynasty Points, 25,000. Redeemable items. Yu Wushwang breaks through Martial Sovereign. All the remaining Martial Kings of several major dynasties surrendered. In addition, he conquered Yi Lin, the Immortal Sword Body. Yi Lingtian earned a total of 18,000 Immortal Dynasty points. Including the original remaining 7,000, the total is 25,000 Immortal Dynasty points. Enough to exchange for 25 Universal Excellent Grade Fragment cards. That is to say, Yi Lingtian can now choose from all the outstanding characters who have signed in the system backpack. As long as he wants. Even if there are only 5 fragment cards of the excellent Yi Fan, he can directly synthesize them. With the trump card in hand. Even if the Beidou Tianyu Zhang clan sends out a strong man who is stronger than Martial God or even surpasses Martial God, Yi Lingtian can easily kill them. Thinking of the Zhang clan from the Beidou Heavenly Territory, Yi Lingtian couldn't help but frown slightly. The reason why the Beidou Tianyu Zhang clan came to trouble him was most likely related to his father Yi Qingyan. Only, Father Yi Qingyan is just a little martial king. Even if his father disappeared and went to the Beidou Heavenly Territory and had a conflict with the Zhang clan, it wouldn't be worth the Zhang clan's aggressive war, right? Yi Lingtian pondered slightly. Immediately, with a thought, he appeared directly in Hongmeng Tower and found his uncle Yi Qinglei. Because Uncle Yi Qinglei has never had the opportunity to practice in recent years, his cultivation level has always remained at the level of a martial artist. In order for the uncle to be promoted quickly, he assisted him in managing the Qingyan dynasty. Yi Lingtian let him practice in Hongmeng Tower. Although Yi Qinglei Martial Dao's talent is not outstanding, it is not bad either. Although only a few days have passed outside, Yi Qinglei, who has been practicing in the tower for decades, has successfully broken through the venerable realm. Lingtian, do you have something to do with me? Sensing Yi Lingtian's appearance, Yi Qinglei also temporarily ended his training and asked with some confusion. There are some things I want to know from my uncle. Yi Lingtian nodded, and then asked, Uncle, have you ever heard of the Beidou Tianyu Zhang clan? Beidou Tianyu Zhang clan. Yi Qinglei was slightly startled, then smiled bitterly and said, to me, Tianyu is a legendary existence. Why do you suddenly ask about this? Yi Lingtianshuan recounted what happened recently. When Yi Qinglei heard this, his expression gradually became serious. After a while, Yi Qinglei finally spoke slowly. Lingtian, the Beidou Tianyu Zhang clan is indeed most likely to be provoked by your father. To be precise, it should be related to your mother. My mother. Yi Lingtian looked surprised. Yi Qinglei nodded and talked about a past event decades ago. Your father, Yi Qingyan, is a late bloomer. His martial Dao talent is considered very mediocre among our generation. It wasn't until I was 20 years old that I went out for training and met a woman I liked. Then I suddenly became enlightened and martial Dao's cultivation level improved rapidly. Then something happened to the Yi family. Although I didn't see them getting married, I knew that the woman should be your mother. When Yi Qinglei said this, his tone paused slightly. Your mother, her surname is Zhang, and her name is Zhang Qingfeng. So that's it. Yi Lingtian understood immediately. Actually, from the moment his uncle Yi Qinglei mentioned that the Beidou Tianyu Zhang clan was related to his mother, Yi Lingtian could vaguely make a guess. His mother, whom he has never met before, seems to be a member of the Zhang clan in the Beidou Tianyu. Being a transmigrator, Yi Lingtian could even figure out the entire storyline. Yi Qingyan, an ordinary father, started a counterattack life with the help of his mother, Zhang Qingfang, the eldest lady of the Zhang clan. Even the king-level Qingtian secret scroll was most likely given to him by his mother, Zhang Qingfang. Later, his mother, Zhang Qingfang, left after giving birth to him due to some unavoidable reasons. Because I can't let go. A strong man was left to guard him secretly. Fight against the Hanfang dynasty. When his father Yi Qingyan encountered a life-and-death crisis, the strong man rescued him. Then his father Yi Qingyan arrived in Beidou Tianyu. Then the Zhang clan found out. Then, the Zhang clan felt that their father, Yi Qingyan, was not worthy of their eldest daughter, so they decided to beat the couple, killing both father and son. Then again and again, people from the Zhang tribe found the northern wilderness territory. Shaked his head. Yi Lingtian was too lazy to think too much. Looking at the attitude of the envoy of the blood fiend divine sect towards Zhongyang, Yi Lingtian could tell that the strength of the Zhang clan was terrifying. Although it is now possible to synthesize an excellent character card. Without knowing the details of the Zhang clan, Yi Lingtian did not plan to go to Beidou Tianyu. First, develop in the mortal realm for a period of time. Earn more immortal dynasty points. When the time comes, 45,678 outstanding character cards will be synthesized, and it is best to create a peerless character card. It would be nice if the Zhang clan knew a little bit about things. Otherwise, just destroy it. Ling Tian, this Beidou Tianyu Zhang clan is probably very extraordinary. Now that they are here, you must be careful. Yi Qinglei warned with a solemn expression. Uncle, don't worry, I have a sense of discretion. Yi Lingtian smiled slightly. He now has at least one excellent character card in his hand. Under the martial emperor, killing indiscriminately. Even if the Beidou Tianyu Zhang clan really sends a martial emperor, he is confident that he will just do it. Master. Just when Yi Lingtian was about to leave Hongmeng Tower, Yi Lin, who was also practicing in Hongmeng Tower, ran over with excitement on his face. Master, I have broken through the martial sovereign realm. Yes, not bad. Yi Lingtian nodded, not too surprised. Yi Lin's immortal sword body can be judged by the system as a peerless immortal body, which is undoubtedly a very awesome existence. And, the Qingye sword sect that Yi Lin once belonged to was not weak in strength, and he practiced at least one god-level technique. Although it had only been a day since entering the Hongmeng Tower, it was easy to break through the martial sovereign realm. Master, now that I have broken through the martial sovereign realm, I want to return to the Qingye domain. I hope Master can make it happen. Yi Lin took a deep breath and suddenly saluted Yi Lingtian solemnly. You want to go back to Qingye domain? Yi Lingtian pondered slightly and said, okay, I'll see you off in person later. He could understand Yi Lin's eagerness to return to Qingye domain. Now that Yi Lin has broken through the martial sovereign, the combat power of his immortal sword body is definitely far better than the ordinary martial sovereign. He left some cards for Yi Lin. As long as there is no martial god in Qingye domain, it is not a big deal. Master, I also want to go out for a walk, and take a look at Qingye domain with my junior brother. At this moment, Yu Wushwang slowly walked over. Why do you want to go out? Yi Lingtian couldn't help but look at Yu Wushwang with curiosity. Master, although this Hongmeng Tower has an unparalleled time flow speed, it is only suitable for improving cultivation, not for enlightenment. Yu Wushwang looked calmly and said, I have already reached the top level of martial sovereign. It's time to go out for a walk. Yi Lingtian was slightly startled. Because he had cheating, he ignored the problem. Martial Dao, including Wu Dao. Xuanwang Great World's martial Dao practice, before the martial sovereign realm was basically a pure improvement of force. As martial sovereign continues to walk, he will start to contact the road. It can be said, martial sovereign is truly the beginning of martial Dao. Whether it is the meaning of martial god comprehended in the martial god realm, or the sacred realm of the holy icon comprehended in the martial saint realm, they are already within the scope of martial Dao. Yu Wushwang should indeed go out for a walk and walk on her own path. Otherwise, staying in Hongmeng Tower would restrict her. Okay, then you should accompany Yi Lin to Qingye domain first, so that you can take care of him. Yi Lingtian readily agreed. Next moment, Yi Lingtian, Yu Wushwang and Yi Lin appeared in the imperial garden of the palace. He casually picked up 2 bamboo leaves on the ground, incorporated the immortal sword intent into them, and handed them to the 2 of them respectively. There is a piece of my sword intention in the bamboo leaves. You can carry it with you. After activation, you can kill randomly under the martial god. You can also save your life when you encounter the martial god. Thank you, master. The 2 of them saluted Yi Lingtian. Let's go, I'll take you to Qingye domain. Yi Lingtian waved his hand and took the 2 of them directly into the sky. However, just when Yi Lingtian was about to leave Qingyan Imperial City, a fierce and domineering martial sovereign aura rolled towards Qingyan Imperial City from the sky. Next moment, I saw a burly man wearing a black dragon robe and a crown, striding through the void. Dugu Ba of Qingye Domain's Dugu dynasty is here to visit. Do you want Emperor Qingyan to show up? Before the burly man arrived, a sound like thunder exploded in the sky above Qingyan dynasty. I am Emperor Qingyan, do you have any advice? Yi Lingtian looked up at Dugu Ba and said calmly. Dugu Ba's eyes immediately fell on Yi Lingtian and the others. When he saw Yi Lin, the remnant of the Qingye sword sect, his expression instantly became extremely cold. Emperor Qingyan, this son is a person wanted by our Dugu dynasty. Dugu Nian chased this son to the northern wasteland but suddenly died. Should you give me an explanation? Yi Lingtian said calmly. I killed Dugu Nian, and Yi Lin is now my disciple. Do you have any objections? When Dugu Ba heard this, his expression became extremely gloomy. Okay, Emperor Qingyan, you are looking for death. Dugu Ba laughed angrily, and the power of the top-level martial sovereign suddenly surged out of his body. He is the emperor of the Dugu dynasty, the top-ranking martial sovereign. The northern wilderness territory is just a small, low-income territory. The Qingyan dynasty was just a new dynasty that had just been established in the northern wasteland. This Emperor Qingyan actually dared to be so arrogant in front of him. How can Duguba not be angry? Not to mention, Qingye sword sect Yi Lin is a person who must be killed by a big shot in Beidou Tianyu. If not for the help of that big shot, it is impossible for the Dugu dynasty to destroy the Qingye sword sect. This is also the reason why Dugu Ba immediately dropped everything and followed after Dugu Nian died. Whoever dares to interfere in this matter will be destroyed along with Yi Lin. If you just stay in Qingye domain and wait for my disciple to kill you, you can live for 2 more days. But you insist on sending someone thousands of miles away, then I will help you. Yi Lingtian shook his head, then raised his hand and waved. The next second, Dugu Ba's head flew out directly. Duguba, the emperor of the Dugu dynasty, came with great momentum, and then died quietly. After killing Dugu Ba, Yi Lingtian sent Yu Wushwang and Yi Lin away from the northern wasteland. Returned to Qingyan Palace. Before Yi Lingtian could rest for a while, Wei Xian and Tuo Bazan came to him to complain. Your Majesty, although the Qingyan dynasty now dominates the northern wasteland, it is short of talent. There are several major dynasties that do not even have a martial king in charge. Tuo Bazan and I have been extremely busy lately. Yi Lingtian pondered for a moment. Most of the powerful people above the martial king level in the northern wilderness region have been killed, and indeed there are not many capable talents. Wei Xian and Tuo Bazan alone are not enough to manage the entire northern wasteland. Wei Xian Martial Dao has limited talents and is destined to be a tool. It would be better to spend more time managing the Qingyan dynasty for him. Tuo Bazan, who has a Confucian and Taoist immortal body, wastes time on this, which is not worth the gain. There should be many geniuses with king-level talents in the northern wasteland. You should summon them to Qingyan Imperial City immediately. Yi Lingtian thought for a while and said, now that his cultivation has reached the intermediate level of martial god, he can send many people into Hongmeng Tower at one time. Send all the geniuses above the king level in the northern wasteland to the Hongmeng Tower. Let's do mass manufacturing. This way, Qingyan dynasty can not only have a large number of martial king in a short period of time, but also provide him with a large number of immortal dynasty points. It can be said that it kills two birds with one stone. Your Majesty, there are some king-level geniuses in each major dynasty. Tuoba Zan hesitated slightly and said, it's just that many of these king-level geniuses come from the king clan of major dynasties. Yi Lingtian asked them to summon king-level geniuses, and the purpose was self-evident. It is to use that mysterious pagoda to cultivate strong men. But many of the descendants of the king clan had elders who were suppressed by Yi Lingtian, and Tuoba Zan was inevitably worried about their loyalty. It doesn't matter. As long as they are willing to come, just bring them with them. Yi Lingtian waved his hand. Xuanwang Great World, everything is based on strength. As long as those king clan descendants are not stupid, they should know what to choose. Not to mention, as long as these geniuses are cultivated into martial kings, they will be recorded in the immortal dynasty mode by the system. He can see everyone's loyalty at all times. It's really not mature enough. It's not too late to drain their potential and kill them after all the immortal dynasty points are accumulated. Tuoba Zan and the two didn't say anything more. They immediately issued an order to summon all the geniuses at the king level and above in the northern wasteland to come to Qingyan Imperial City. 3 days later, 2 emperor-level geniuses and 18 king-level geniuses were brought to Yi Lingtian by Wei Xian. Meet Emperor Qingyan. The 20 geniuses all knelt down in front of Yi Lingtian respectfully. Everyone, get up. Yi Lingtian raised his hand and waved, and 20 geniuses stood upright in front of him. His eyes briefly glanced at these geniuses, and his faint voice resounded in everyone's ears. Although I don't know the purpose for which you came here, but since you are here, I will treat everyone equally and give you an unparalleled opportunity. After getting this opportunity, I hope you will be loyal to the Qingyan dynasty. If there are betrayers, don't blame me for being rude. After Yi Lingtian finished speaking, Hongmeng Tower appeared out of thin air from his palm. He activated the Hongmeng Tower and sent all the 20 geniuses in front of him into the Hongmeng Tower. Wei Xian, you should also go to Hongmeng Tower to practice. Yi Lingtian said, directly leading Wei Xian to appear in Hongmeng Tower. He looked at the 20 geniuses who looked confused and a little overwhelmed, and said calmly, this is a special space. 1 day in the outside world lasts 10 years here. I will let you practice here for 3 days. I hope you can all break through the martial king realm. Wow! As soon as Yi Lingtian said these words, the 20 geniuses were shocked to the extreme. 1 day outside, 10 years here. Yi Lingtian asked them to practice here for 3 days, wouldn't that be equivalent to 30 years? Fear. Unbelievable. This moment, they finally understood why Yi Lingtian was able to rise up against the odds and dominate the northern wasteland in such a short period of time. There are such heaven-defying gods. Even if you let a pig in, you can probably become the king of pigs in a very short time. Especially the 2 emperor-level geniuses, Huang Ying of the Dawang dynasty and Duan Yu of the Tianqian dynasty, couldn't help but smile bitterly in their hearts. The original thoughts in their hearts were completely gone at this moment. Follow Yi Lingtian honestly. They will have more opportunities to enter this place to practice. There seems to be nothing unacceptable about this. The ancestor died in the hands of Yi Lingtian. What does it have to do with them? To avenge the ancestor, also give me a hammer. Why don't I change my ancestors and worship Yi Lingtian as my ancestor? Practice. Huang Ying and Duan Yu both looked enthusiastic and quickly found a place to enter the cultivation state. After settling in 20 geniuses, Yi Lingtian finally had some leisure time. Every day I just sign in, drink tea, lie down and bask in the sun. And inside Hongmeng Tower, the cultivation levels of the 20 geniuses are rising slowly, continuously providing Yi Lingtian with immortal dynasty points. Ding! Qingyan dynasty has added 1 more martial king and gained 1000 immortal dynasty points. Ding! Qingyan dynasty has added 1 more martial king and gained 1000 immortal dynasty points. Quote. Ding! The martial sovereign of Qingyan dynasty has added 1 more person and gained 3000 immortal dynasty points. Ding! The Qingyan dynasty has 1 martial god and 3 martial sovereigns, and has been promoted to the Qingyan divine dynasty. In just 3 days, Wei Xian, who has the inheritance of Yuanwang, successfully broke through the martial sovereign realm. Among the 20 geniuses from the northern wilderness region, Huang Ying from the Great Wilderness Dynasty also reached the martial sovereign realm. The remaining 19 people are all martial king. Especially Duan Yu of the Tianqian dynasty has already reached the top level of martial sovereign. He is only one imperial level skill away from breaking through martial sovereign. Yi Lingtian checked the properties of Immortal Dynasty mode. Immortal Dynasty mode, Qingyan Dynasty. Monarch, Yi Lingtian. The strength of the Divine Dynasty, 1 martial god, 4 martial sovereigns, and 26th martial king. Immortal Dynasty points, 50,000. In the column of redeemable items, new exchange items were suddenly refreshed. Random Peerless Fragment Card, 5,000 Immortal Dynasty points. Peerless Universal Fragment Card, 30,000 Immortal Dynasty points. Sister Tongzi, is this all-purpose Peerless Fragment Card too expensive? Yi Lingtian was immediately speechless. 30,000 Immortal Dynasty points are not too outrageous. This is dozens of times more expensive than the excellent Universal Fragment Card. Master, compared to the Peerless Character Card and the Outstanding Character Card, they are completely different. Any Peerless Character Card has the power of Primordial Origin Immortal Emperor, which is the true ceiling of combat power in the Xuanwang Great World. Yi Lingtian was shocked. Primordial Origin Immortal Emperor. Xuanwang Great World Combat Power Ceiling. Class sounds awesome. Although synthesizing a Peerless Character Card requires at least hundreds of thousands of Immortal Dynasty points to start with. But it's not a big problem. Just develop hard and that's it. When his martial emperors are as numerous as dogs and the martial saints are everywhere, are they still worried about not having Immortal Dynasty points? After all 20 geniuses broke through the martial king, Yi Lingtian did not let them continue to practice in Hongmeng Tower. After all, the potential of a king-level genius, the breakthrough martial king, has almost been exhausted. Although Hongmeng Tower has an unparalleled time flow speed, it cannot change their martial Dao talent. Even if he continues to practice in Hongmeng Tower, there is not much room for growth. If they want to break through to a higher realm, they can only break the shackles of the body on their own. Meet Emperor Qingyan. After the 20 geniuses came out of Hongmeng Tower, they knelt before Yi Lingtian again. But this time their tone became obviously more respectful, and they were obviously more convinced than 3 days ago. Yi Lingtian also saw their loyalty. The loyalty of the 20 geniuses all reached over 80. Yi Lingtian was very satisfied with this. Everyone, please get up. From today on, you are all the pillars of the Qingyan dynasty. I hope that you will all be loyal to the Qingyan dynasty and not let me down. In Qingyan dynasty, after reaching the martial king realm, Qingyan dynasty will provide higher-level cultivation techniques for free. You will find Wei Xian to receive the exercises later, and then follow his arrangements. If you can break through to the next level, I will give you another chance to enter the Hongmeng Tower to practice. Yi Lingtian said calmly, "Long live Emperor Qingyan. We are willing to follow Emperor Qingyan to the death." The 20 geniuses all looked excited, and once again bowed respectfully before Yi Lingtian. This moment, their loyalty levels were instantly full, and all of them reached over 90. Starting today, they were born as members of the Qingyan dynasty, and died as the ghosts of the Qingyan dynasty. Even if my father comes to persuade me, it won't work. At worst, the family tree will start on a new page. Yi Lingtian waved his hand and asked Wei Xian to take them to receive the skills. He killed Zhang Yang of the Beidou Tianyu Zhang clan and the envoy of the Blood Fiend Divine Sect, and the Qingyan dynasty obtained a lot of trophies. Many of them include Emperor-level skills and God-level skills. Although Yi Lingtian doesn't like these things at all, they are more than enough for the people of the Qingyan dynasty. Northern Wilderness Territory, Far East Sea Territory. The sea surface, which was originally clear, suddenly turned dark. There were dark clouds, wind and rain, lightning and thunder. Rumble. Only a loud noise was heard. A huge hole opened in the sky, as if a heavenly door had been opened. Boo-hoo-hoo. One after another, figures with powerful auras continuously emerged from the Tianmen. These figures are all wearing black armor, and the aura of each Taoist figure has at least reached the martial sovereign level. Very quickly, a total of 20 mysterious figures gathered on the sea. 20 martial sovereigns gathered together, and the momentum was earth-shaking. Behind the 20 mysterious martial sovereigns, 2 more Taoist figures stepped out of the Tianmen one after the other. The purple-robed old man walking in front is none other than Zhang Yanwu, the martial god realm elder of the Zhang clan. Next to Zhang Yanwu, there was a middle-aged man half a step behind him. The middle-aged man, with bloody clothes and bloody hair, looked as if he had walked out of a sea of blood and a mountain of corpses. The middle-aged man is none other than Shui Li, the leader of the Blood Fiend Divine Sect. Elder Zhang, this is the Northern Wilderness Territory. Shui Li looked at Zhang Yanwu beside him and said respectfully, I also ask Elder Zhang to follow me to the Northern Wilderness Dynasty. Shui Li will definitely give Elder Zhang a satisfactory explanation. Although they are both in the realm of martial god, he, the leader of the Blood Fiend Divine Sect, was far from comparable to Zhang Yanwu in terms of strength and status. Yu Qi learned that Zhang Yanwu's son died in the northern wasteland. Shui Li was even more frightened. It just so happened that the envoy sent by the Blood Fiend Divine Sect to the Northern Wilderness Territory not long ago also died in the Northern Wilderness Territory. Shui Li personally accompanied Zhang Yanwu. No. Xuanjia guards listened to the order, anyone with the surname Yi in this domain will be killed without mercy. Zhang Yanwu's eyes were cold, and the voice filled with murderous intent also rippled across the world. Zhang Yanwu still knew his son very well. Zhang Yang's temperament is definitely not the kind of person who likes to meddle in other people's business. If he expected it well, there is a high probability that Zhang Yang discovered the mortal domain Yi family related to that person in the Northern Wilderness Territory. That being the case, whether it is to avenge his son or for the entire Zhang clan, he will kill all the people named Yi in the Northern Wasteland. Your Majesty, the 20 Xuanjia guards responded respectfully, then quickly flew away, quickly disappearing from Zhang Yanwu's sight. Tianai Dynasty, Yecheng. This is a little-known town in the Tianai Dynasty, ruled by a small clan named Yi. The clan leader Yi Xiao is just a junior martial arts sect. Senior, I wonder what your purpose is in coming to Yecheng. Looking at the mysterious figure standing proudly in the void, Yi Xiao suppressed the fear in his heart and asked respectfully. The Xuanjia figure looked down at Yi Xiao from a high position and said indifferently, your surname is Yi. Senior, from the Yi family in Yecheng, the natural surname is Yi. Yi Xiao was confused, but still answered respectfully. Anyone with the surname Yi in this domain will be killed without mercy. After the Xuanjia figure finished speaking, he raised his hand and suppressed it with a giant thunder palm. Boom! Before Yi Xiao could react, he was killed on the spot. The entire Yi family manor was reduced to ruins in an instant, like a purgatory on earth. Tianqian Dynasty, Yi family. Ever since Yi Lingtian rose to power and came to the northern wasteland as Emperor Qingyan, the Yi family has been in a state of trembling, fearing that Yi Lingtian would come to settle accounts with them. But, as time went by, everyone in the Yi family discovered that Yi Lingtian had no intention of dealing with them, and their thoughts became more active. Although they no longer have extravagant hopes of enjoying the treatment of the Qingyan dynasty sovereign clan. But it was revealed intentionally or unintentionally that Yi Lingtian was related to their Yi family. Then, everyone in the Yi family was surprised to find that all the major forces in the Tianqian dynasty were very polite to the Yi family. These days, the Yi family even prospered in the Tianqian dynasty. Yi family meeting hall. The newly succeeded head of the Yi family, Yi Qingtong, is discussing with the senior leaders of the family on how to continue to use Yi Lingtian's name to benefit the Yi family. Suddenly, a terrifying martial sovereign aura suddenly descended over the Yi family, suffocating everyone in the Yi family. Yi Qingtong looked horrified. He thought Yi Lingtian came to settle a score with them, so he rushed out of the hall immediately. When he saw the mysterious figure in midair, he couldn't help but be stunned. Senior, I am the head of the Yi family. However, before Yi Qingtong could finish speaking, the Xuanjia figure directly swung out his sword, and thousands of flaming sword energy descended down. Yi Qingtong didn't even have time to scream, before he was split in half by a sword energy. Just for a moment, the entire Yi family was riddled with holes and completely turned into a sea of fire. The Yi family of the Tianqian dynasty was destroyed. Qingyan Imperial City, Qingyan Hall. Yi Lingtian sat high on the dragon chair in the main hall. Wei Xian, Tuo Bazan and others also gathered here. The atmosphere in the hall was solemn. The Yi family of the Tianqian dynasty was destroyed. The Yi family in many places in the northern wasteland also suffered sudden genocide. A group of mysterious martial sovereign realm experts suddenly appeared in the northern wilderness, slaughtering people named Yi wantonly. Anyone with the surname Yi in this domain will be killed without mercy. This is the slogan of those mysterious strong men. Your Majesty, these mysterious powerful men are most likely from the Zhang clan of the Beidou Heavenly Territory. Tuoba Zan said with a solemn expression. I didn't expect the people from the Beidou Tianyu Zhang clan to come so quickly. Yi Lingtian's eyes were gloomy. Even without Tuoba Zan's reminder, Yi Lingtian could guess that this was the work of the Zhang clan of the Beidou Heavenly Territory. Although Yi Lingtian expected that the Beidou Tianyu Zhang clan would not give up and send people to come to trouble him. But he didn't expect it. The Beidou Tianyu Zhang clan could be so ruthless in their attacks. Anyone with the surname Yi in this domain will be killed without mercy. This is to kill all the people named Yi in the northern wasteland. What a great Beidou Tianyu Zhang family. Yi Lingtian's eyes were cold, and there seemed to be a ball of anger burning in his chest. Even when he learned that the Zhang clan wanted to get rid of him too because of his parents' affairs, he had never been as angry as he was now. Yi Lingtian was filled with murderous intent. Just when he was about to personally take action and kill all the Zhang clan people who came to the northern wilderness territory, two martial sovereign breaths suddenly descended over Qingyan Imperial City. Yi Lingtian disappeared on the dragon chair. The next second, his figure appeared ghostly in the sky above Qingyan Imperial City. Two figures in black armor, one tall and one thin, looked down indifferently at the Qingyan Imperial City below like heavenly soldiers. A member of the Zhang clan in Beidou Tianyu. Yi Lingtian stared at the two mysterious figures in front of him with cold eyes. The voice seemed to come from Juyu, and it was bone-chilling. Are you Qingyan Emperor Yi Lingtian? Among them, the tall mysterious figure stepped forward and stared at Yi Lingtian coldly. According to the order of the elders, people with the surname Yi in this domain are to be killed. Are you going to commit suicide and apologize, or do you want me to do it myself? Yi Lingtian's eyes narrowed. Poof! A ray of sword light penetrated the eyebrows of the mysterious figure without any warning. The Xuanjia figure lost all life in an instant and turned into a cold corpse and fell from the air. Quote? The other skinny black armored figure looked confused and didn't react for a while. This group hasn't started yet. Why did his teammate suddenly and inexplicably die? Qingyan Emperor Yi Lingtian just glanced at his teammates, and then his teammates just disappeared. Hiss. Kill martial sovereign with one glance. When the skinny black armored figure reacted, his scalp felt numb. Escape. The skinny black armored figure had a look of fear on his face, as if he had fallen into an ice cellar. He turned around and ran away into the distance without hesitation. Yi Lingtian's eyes were indifferent, and he stretched out his hand and raised his claw in the air. The figure of the skinny black armored figure who fled in panic suddenly paused, and then began to retreat uncontrollably, quickly approaching Yi Lingtian. No, the skinny black armored figure looked desperate and frightened. He struggled wildly with all his strength, but to no avail. Just a few breaths, he was held in Yi Lingtian's hand like an eagle carrying a chicken. Yi Lingtian, I am the Xuanjia guard of the Zhang clan in the Beidou Heavenly Territory. If you dare to kill me, you are an enemy of the Zhang clan, and you will die without a burial place. The skinny black armored figure screamed in horror. I will destroy you Zhang clan. Give you a chance to win over. Call all the people from the Zhang clan who came to the northern wilderness territory. Yi Lingtian glanced at the thin figure in black armor, his eyes extremely cold. The Qingyan dynasty is still too weak now. Except him. Only Yu Wushuang and the two who went to Qingye domain can compete with these Zhang clan Xuanjia guards. How many people did the Zhang clan send to the northern wilderness this time? Yi Lingtian had no idea. If he boldly searches for these Xuanjia guards, the Qingyan dynasty may be in danger. Instead of searching for Zhan Jiawei all over the world, it would be better to lure them all to Qingyan Imperial City and then destroy them all in one fell swoop. The skinny black armored figure didn't dare to hesitate at all. He quickly took out the Xuanjia guard's unique Xuanjia token and sent a message through the token. Wait for the thin mysterious figure to send the message. Yi Lingtian just held him up and stood quietly and proudly in the air, waiting. After a stick of incense, a Xuanjia guard came from the west of Qingyan dynasty in a menacing manner. Only, This Xuanjia guard had just approached the 100-foot radius of Qingyan Imperial City when his footsteps suddenly stopped in the air. When he looked at his companion who was held in Yi Lingtian's hand and the body of a companion below him, he couldn't help but feel an inexplicable chill in his heart. This is a tough one. It's not something he can handle. You have to go and invite the elders quickly. This Xuanjia guard showed no hesitation and turned around decisively. Now that you're here, stay forever. As soon as Yi Lingtian's indifferent words fell, the Xuanjia guard felt a chill on his neck, and then his head flew out. You. The skinny Zhan Jiawei's eyes were extremely horrified. Another instant kill. They Xuanjiawei are not cabbages on the street, but the elites of the Zhang clan in the Beidou Tianyu. Especially the one just now. Among their group of Xuanjia guards, they are among the best in strength, and their cultivation has reached the high level of martial sovereign. Even facing the top-level martial sovereign in the mortal realm, he can still fight with him. Now he was killed instantly by this Qingyan emperor. How can it be? How could such a powerful existence exist in this small mortal realm? This moment, the skinny Xuanjia Wei also understood the purpose of Yi Lingtian asking him to call people. This is to catch them all, the Xuanjia guards, in one fell swoop. Over time, one after another, Xuanjia guards kept coming towards Qingyan Imperial City. However, these Xuanjia guards appeared in the sky above Qingyan Dynasty. Almost none of them could survive for more than 3 seconds before they turned into cold corpses. An hour later, there are already more than 10 corpses of Xuanjiawei outside the Qingyan Dynasty. 2 hours later, the 20 Xuanjia guards who descended from the Beidou Heavenly Territory to the Northern Wilderness Territory, except for the skinny Xuanjia guards who were held in Yi Lingtian's hands, the other 19 were all lying in a mess outside the Qingyan Dynasty. You devil, the elder will never let you go. The skinny Xuanjia Wei looked at Yi Lingtian who was like a demon, and his expression was almost broken. Demon, compared to your Zhang clan's actions of annihilating people with the surname Yi in a region, it's far behind. Yi Lingtian smiled coldly. Just when he was about to ask the skinny Zhan Jiawei if there was any fish that had slipped through the net, he suddenly sensed something. He, Zhang Yanwu, are you finally going to show up? Yi Lingtian's sharp gaze, like a heavenly sword unsheathed, suddenly looked towards the sky. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.